Welcome to Pensar Basketball Live. We got to talk about Nikola Jokic. We got to talk about the greatest player in the NBA. We got to talk about the guy who's been the greatest player in the NBA for the last 5 years straight. 5 years. 5 years. That's a hell of a long time to be the best player in a sport at a time when the sport has never been more talented. There have never been more great players than there are today, and he is clearly the greatest of the great. He even did a Statue of Liberty dunk for you tonight, just for those of you in the back row who say the guy can't dunk. Are you not entertained? I don't do sports betting. I don't like it. I think it's pretty terrible. But when I saw the lines, everyone in the world saying Denver's going to lose this, they're going to get swept, I tell you, I broke every rule in the book about sports betting. I just started slamming bets. Nuggets win. Took them tonight. Took them the last night. I don't care. Took them to win the series. I don't care at this point. You are underestimating the greatness of Nikola Jokic, and I honestly can't wait for the retractions tomorrow. Tomorrow I'm going to be on Player's Choice on the panel at 11 a.m. Definitely go check that out. Probably going to get really, really piled on. But I can't wait to hear what people who've been talking a lot of shit about Nikola Jokic have to say about it, because I think people owe him an apology. Shaquille O'Neal trying to spoil his MVP award under the guise of we keep it real. Yeah, real. You keep it real, dumb. Okay? I did not walk into this season as some Nikola Jokic homer. I didn't put him in my top 10 all time. But I tell you right now, this Minnesota team is real. Their defense is real. They are suffocating. They are incredible. What they did to the Phoenix Suns is no fluke. It's no fluke. They are a very good team. Anthony Edwards is a really good player. And tonight, he put up a masterclass. And he was itching to play. And I have so much respect for Anthony Edwards right now. This is no shade to the Minnesota Timberwolves. They have the Defensive Player of the Year, multi-time Defensive Player of the Year. He looks like a child. Can we be real about this? He looks like a child trying to guard this guy. You know, even Michael Cooper had a little bit of success against Michael Jordan, right? There were no defenders that could stop Michael Jordan. That's why he is anointed as a GOAT. But man, people had a little bit more success against him than, there's no one in the world that can stop this man. You got triple teams on him and he's putting up easy buckets. He's alone in the gym. I don't think he broke a sweat tonight. They're hitting him. They're grabbing him. They're punching him. It doesn't matter. He's immovable. He is so freaking talented. Yeah, he had some issues with the jump shooting tonight. Coming into this series, was a little reluctant to take threes. First game, couldn't hit a three to save his life. Second game, he doesn't take threes. Takes 2 threes, misses both of them. Now he's hitting them. Now you're in trouble. Something flipped. I thought to myself, after game 2, the embarrassment that was game 2 for the Denver Nuggets, I thought to myself, the longer this series goes, basically there were 2 ways that this could go. Either the Minnesota Timberwolves stomp the Denver Nuggets in game 3, and then it's just curtains, right? It's really hard to win 4 games in a row, no matter how good you are, no matter how much better you are. But I thought to myself, there's no way that if this series goes 6 or 7, that the Minnesota Timberwolves are going to close out the Denver Nuggets. The reason I say this is because of this. Great players get better as the series gets further along. They do get more tired, they're human beings, but they get better because they start solving things. What the Minnesota Timberwolves did to the Denver Nuggets in game 2, game 1, honestly has been massively overstated. That was my take at the time, it is my take now. What they did was they made the Denver Nuggets uncomfortable to the point where the Denver Nuggets self-imploded. When the Denver Nuggets stopped self-imploding, which by the way, they've done over the last 2 games, it doesn't work anymore. Karl-Anthony Towns, there's this old saying, the best predictor of future behavior is past behavior. Now, I'm not saying anything overly negative about Karl-Anthony Towns, but I think we all knew coming into this series that he was fully capable of having a game like this, and tonight he had a game like this. There were some epic stretches in this game. One epic stretch was to end to end the first half. What a backbreaker. Like that is really where Minnesota showed how young they are. They're a really young team. Jaden McDaniels is a really young player. Karl-Anthony Towns, relative to, his experience in the NBA, he's been on a lot of losing teams. In the playoffs, in these tight situations, he's still a pretty young player. Mike Conley is the vet for sure, but Naz Reid, these guys, they're pretty young, and they sometimes they act like it. That stretch where they had it down to like 7, I'll show you, how close this game was. This is how close this game was. Don't look at the score. Don't say, oh, they cut it to 7. Don't, just be for real about this. This was never in doubt. Derp Jones saying, love it when you're on Player's Choice. Thank you, sir. I appreciate it. I'm going to get absolutely I have a feeling I'm going to get stomped tomorrow personally. I have a feeling they're coming for blood, right? Because, they're posting a lot of stuff about the last time I was on and stuff. And I'm just like, I'm going there to be Viva Pinata. But that's okay. I can take it. It's all good. It'll be fun. It'll be fun. It's just basketball. We're talking basketball, right? So what I'm saying is this dude is fucking unstoppable. And there's really not a hell of a lot they can do about him. And when he starts going, the beautiful thing is everybody else just falls into line. Whether that is, look at his teammates tonight. Everybody eats. Everybody eats. He had 35 points. He was very assertive to start the game. But look at Aaron Gordon. I can't remember, I think he missed one shot and it was like the final shot he took. 11 for 12 from the field. Just really smart, efficient offense. He's kind of operating as like a point forward for them right now. We knew, if you watched him in Orlando, you knew he had this skill set, and it's a really valuable thing to be able to go to. The Denver Nuggets battled foul trouble pretty much the entire night. They had that entire stretch to end the third quarter without Nikola Jokic, 6 minutes without Nikola Jokic, and they held up, right? They kept it within, they kept it to 10. They didn't let Minnesota have one of those epic runs where they were going to close the gap and suddenly now we're in a freaking game. This was never a game. If you understand the game of basketball, you know this was never a game. This was a game for maybe the first 4 minutes. But after that first 4 minutes, I think you could have heard a pin drop in that arena tonight, because everybody knew 5 minutes into this game that it was not going to go the Timberwolves' way. They can't stop. I saw Jaden McDaniels play some of the best defense I've ever seen anyone play on anybody, and I saw Jamal Murray just put it up on him. Just put it up on him and hit it like easy peasy. The skill level of that dude, the shot making of that dude is awesome, but it doesn't work without Jokic. I've heard a lot of people, have this commentary about, oh, Jokic needs Murray. Yeah, everybody needs their teammates. Let's not be stupid about it. Just an incredible performance. If I told you prior to the game, right? If I told you prior to the game the Nuggets would get out-rebounded in this game, that the Timberwolves would take way more shots, they would win the offensive rebounding battle, and Michael Porter Jr. would have 4 points, would you have assumed that the Nuggets would lose this game? If I told you that Jokic didn't have a triple-double, that he only had 7 rebounds, would you assume that the Nuggets would have lost this game? I would assume it too. But you know what it was? It was just, simply put, really decent defense. Like, they had really good defensive effort and incredibly efficient offense. Like, it was nonstop. It was just an assault. It was like watching, there's this old quote from Apollo Creed: "You fight great, but I'm a great fighter." That's a good one, right? That's it. You fight great, but I'm a great fighter. Nikola Jokic, I imagine he would say something like that to, the Minnesota Timberwolves right now, and to their ascending, beautiful frigging basketball player star, Anthony Edwards, would say, "You're playing great, but I'm a great player." How great? How great? Well, I'll tell you, there are a lot of players that I put on my top 10 list that I would be willing to say, if Nikola Jokic wins a second championship, that he would be in the conversation with, if not usurp those players. Arvydas Sabonis, who is in my top 15. A lot of people clown that, but he was a really great player. Google it. I promise you, he was great. He's one player that Nikola Jokic would be in the conversation with, if not beat out. Kobe Bryant, 5 championships to 2 championships. I get it, but Nikola Jokic is playing with Jamal Murray. He's not playing with Shaquille O'Neal, okay? Keep it a buck, okay? Robert Horry's 7 championships are not beating out Michael Jordan's 6 championships for the same reason that Kobe Bryant's 5 championships are not beating out, someone else's 4 championships. Championships are not everything. MVPs count for something. Finals MVPs are going to count for something. Championships, rings, etc. count for something. It's a cumulative thing. I was asked on Player's Choice a month ago, what is greatness? To which I responded, eat your fucking crackers. But I will tell you what I think greatness is. Greatness is force that you put on the defense. Greatness is, I can't guard you one-on-one. Greatness is showing up when your teammates need you to. Greatness is elevation. Greatness is elevating your teammates to a new level that they are previously not on, but they are with you. That's why I consider Michael Jordan so great. That's why I consider Nikola Jokic so great. That's why I consider Magic Johnson so great. That's why I consider Bill Russell so great. That's why I consider Tim Duncan so great. Greatness is not just a basketball trait. It is a human trait. And Nikola Jokic has it in spades. When his team was down 2-0, the least panicked person in the entire room was him. He did not look frantic. He did not look frustrated. He did not come out in, his press conference and start blaming everybody. He was jovial. He was laughing. He was casual. You wouldn't be able to tell, looking at his face, that his team was the subject of a media storm, that he was being called a fraud, that he was being called a fake MVP, that he was being called fat. No. You couldn't tell from his face. When Shaquille O'Neal, said that Shai Gilgeous-Alexander should have won MVP, it got me thinking, what is an MVP? What is it? What is an MVP? Well, here's a question for you, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, Luka Doncic supporters, people who put those guys above him, people who want to put Joel Embiid above him. Here's a question for you. If the OKC Thunder right now, as they are constructed, traded Shai Gilgeous-Alexander for Nikola Jokic and gave him a week to figure out the offense, would they have a chance in this Dallas series? Because as is right now, they don't really have a chance in this Dallas series. They're down 2-1, and they don't really have a chance of coming back in this series, in my opinion. I mean, they have a very small chance. But you put Jokic on that team right now in place of Shai, and they win that series handily. It's called force and pressure. Shaquille O'Neal may not be like my favorite dude. I don't really like listening to him talk about basketball, but he's on my top 12 for that reason. He put a tremendous amount of force. No one can guard him. They changed rules to guard that guy. Teams had to stack up 1, 2, 3 guys on their team to stop that guy. No, you can talk about he was lazy, he didn't work hard enough, whatever, but that's still greatness. What he did was great. He was unstoppable. Look at some of Shaq's box scores in 2000 and 1999, whatever. He may not have lived up to every ounce of potential he had. Maybe he could have been a 6, 7-time, 8-time, 9-time champion, but he won a championship on 2 different teams, and he was the biggest reason why, in my opinion, that the Lakers won those first 3 championships. So he deserves a lot of credit, and that's why he's great. Kareem was great. Hakeem was great. Dirk was great. These are all great players. Steph is great. Look at how much force Steph puts on. Look, have you ever watched Draymond Green play basketball without Steph Curry? Jeez, you really see the impact. What Nikola Jokic can do for the other 4 players in the basketball court is make them stars. He makes stars. He makes Christian Braun a really, really good player. Christian Braun is a decent young prospect, but with Jokic, if you understand how to play off of him, you become great. Aaron Gordon is great with Jokic. He's shooting 10 for 11, 11 for 12 from the field, largely because of the shots that are being created for him. Even that play to end the second half, to end the first half, which led to that entire frantic breakdown. What did it start with? It started with a pitch ahead pass by Jokic. He's not going to get credit for that. He's going to get credit for the Statue of Liberty dunk. He's going to get credit for the 30 plus points. But man, it's the decisions he makes in the middle of the floor that matters so much. This Denver offense just went up against a defense that, by the way, don't refresh your take. Stand on what you said. The Minnesota Timberwolves are the best defense I've seen in 20 years, is what I heard after game 2 from NBA pundits. It's the best defense I've seen in my life. It's better than the Detroit Pistons, who won the 2004 championship. The Minnesota Timberwolves became championship favorites after that second game. Okay. That wasn't just what they did to the Denver Nuggets. It's what they did to the Phoenix Suns as well. People started thinking, maybe the Suns are really good. But I tell you, I went back after that game 2. I had a lot of time. I started thinking about sports betting. I started thinking about a lot of stuff during that pause. And I watched those games and I said, if the Denver Nuggets just stop messing up, they stop screwing themselves over here, they're going to whoop this team. That's what's happening right now. I think it's important to realize that when you can't stop a guy one-on-one and you can't double him, then you can't stop him, period. What Jokic can do to a defense is equivalent, if not greater, than what any player in league history has been able to do to a defense. Please understand, this entire Minnesota team was designed to stop this one player. Rudy Gobert was brought in. All those picks were traded out. Prospects, Walker Kessler, etc. Everything was traded out under two-pronged premise that Tim Connelly had. Number one, put a competent defense around our ascending star Anthony Edwards. Number two, keep all the pieces and bring in pieces that will help us stop Nikola Jokic. Well, 2 years into that experiment now, you can't stop Nikola Jokic. I heard after game 2 that Naz Reid was a Jokic stopper. Please stop. I also heard that Karl-Anthony Towns could stop Jokic. I myself have said that he is a good defender on Jokic. He cannot stop Jokic. That's what makes players great. You can't stop LeBron. You can't stop Jordan. You can't stop these guys. You can frustrate them. You can force them into shots they don't want to take. But they are too smart, too cerebral. The question really with Jokic is, can any team in league history, would they have a shot against this guy? What do you do? How do you guard this guy? I mean, I've been watching him for 7 years and I still can't figure it out. I don't know how I would stop him. I have ideas of how to stop Kawhi Leonard. They're not good ideas, but they're ideas. I have ideas about how I would stop Shaq because he can't shoot. I mean, maybe you don't stop him, but you make him less effective. You run up and down the court. I don't know. Would Shaq survive in pace and space today? I don't know. Probably, yeah. He would still be a really great player. I don't know if he'd be this great. I have ideas in my mind about how maybe to limit guys who've won multiple MVPs like Steve Nash. I don't know how to stop this guy. Jokic better than Shaq, and he knows it. Probably. Yeah, he is. I think he's in that conversation. I don't want to say he is, because that's disrespectful to Shaquille O'Neal. Shaquille O'Neal did a lot of good shit. But I do want to say that if he wins a championship this year, he belongs in that conversation of top 10 players of all time. Because let's be honest, we've put players in that conversation for doing a lot less. All right. We got Vince the music guy, and he's ready to come on and talk to us probably a little bit about the Raptors, maybe a little bit about the Denver Nuggets. It's going to be open season. If you got something to say, you can call in too. We will, after this conversation, wherever this conversation takes us, we will go to Nuggets post-game stuff. We will continue to talk about the Denver Nuggets. We'll break down the game a little bit more. But I wanted to get a 20-minute rant off my chest, just wax poetic a little bit about the Denver Nuggets, because I feel like this is one of the most criminally disrespected teams. I really do believe this. I think they have been really disrespected. I believe analytics are disrespected because of Jokic. I heard Kendrick Perkins go on national television and call him a stat patter. You idiot. You idiot. I feel like Kendrick Perkins shouldn't be able to talk about basketball after that, personally. Stat patter, Jokic. He's unstoppable as they come in the NBA. And if Jamal Murray's health holds up, the Denver Nuggets will be hoisting a second championship. All right. We got Tank Sinatra. This is a hilarious name. How you doing, man? What's going on?
I'm good. I'm good, brother. How are you?
I'm
Been a
good.
minute.
I flashed our conversation from if you remember from my live reaction to us trading for Jakob Poeltl last year on X/Twitter. People had a lot of fun with it today. I believe my exact words were "fuck." Yeah. So what's going on? Have you been okay? We can definitely talk about the draft, and we can talk about the implications of all that the Raptors stuff. But did you watch the game tonight?
I watched it as the secondary thing. My wife and I haven't had a lot of like us time lately. So the few minutes we have, we like watch a show together. She doesn't want to watch NBA, so I have it on my phone next to me. So
Put your wife on. We need to have a conversation. Let her know that whatever show she's watching is it a cook off? Is it Gordon Ramsay? Is it Gordon Ramsay like Hell's Kitchen shit?
hell
Tell her
no.
that shit will be available later. This is happening now,
Bro,
man.
you have no idea. The Food Network is a massive pet peeve of mine. That's the only instruction I give is I'll watch whatever with you as long as it's not Food Network. Some goddamn stupid cooking competition. I can't stand it.
All right.
But no. See, yeah, I had it. I mean, I caught the ridiculous end to the half. Um, Along with pieces of the rest of the game, including the end. And it's crazy, man. Like hearing all the you touched on this like a couple minutes ago. Hearing the pundits, I just like it happens every year. It happens every single year, and every single time it happens is every single time somebody goes up 2-0. Everybody's like, okay, it's jam done with for whoever that team is that's in the hole.
Well, in fairness, 2-0 is a pretty big hole for the home team. It's only
Uh,
5 teams in league history that have ever come back from it, so it is a pretty big deal.
100% it is for sure, but it does happen every year, right? And it happens like especially when it happens to the champs. You got to know that like is it possible they go down 3-0? Of course, yes, of course. But why are you counting them out? Like in the first couple games, I watched the first couple games and I was just like, holy shit! Like Jokic looks hurt or tired or a combination of both, right? He just didn't look himself. He was
Sure.
passive. I think they were playing this like hot team that just steamrolled Phoenix, and they were on a high, and they just hadn't caught up with the they didn't go through the requisite simulation like astronauts have to go through simulation of going into space.
Right.
They weren't able to simulate that kind of defense, and after a couple games, here we are, right? And is anybody surprised? Like they didn't. I watched some of the Ernie and Shaq and all those guys. I don't remember any of them saying, "Okay, we were obviously fucking wrong." Like didn't Chuck come out and say there was going to be a sweep?
Yes, he did. And tonight
Right.
he picked the Minnesota Timberwolves again. And I was like, yo, they keep doing this as a FanDuel thing. Like
Sure. Sure.
they keep advertising FanDuel through
Sure.
through
Sure.
Chuck and Kenny having this
Yeah.
conversation. And
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
like, yo, the most flawless betting strategy is whoever Chuck picks, pick the other team.
Yeah. That's right.
It's
That's right.
it's like undefeated. He's always wrong. I love Charles Barkley, but he is always wrong.
Yeah.
Um,
He
this is
made
crazy.
some funny jokes tonight,
Here,
but yeah,
look,
for sure.
just flash. Look at your screen for a second.
Yeah.
This is Jokic's 3 games. The last game against Lakers, last game against Minnesota, first game against Minnesota, second game against Minnesota. Okay,
Right.
4.2 box plus minus, 4.2 box plus minus, 6.1 box plus minus. I tell you, those are the 3 worst games in back to back I have ever seen. I have seen him play in a very long time. There's another one here,
Wow. Look
Miami.
at games 1 through 4. That was insane.
Yeah,
Against LA, 17-18. Are you fucking kidding me?
yeah. Um,
Holy shit!
so he has like a dud every now and again. Every player does. No one is 23, 22 all time. Like, but it balances out. So it's like 6 great games, 1 bad game.
Right.
But to be honest, like his average game is like someone else's best game ever. So
Right.
that's the greatness of
Yeah.
Jokic. But
It's
to put
crazy.
into context what he did in game, like look at the jump. He's right back to being himself. 16.8 is exactly who he's
Yep.
been, and that's who he is. In the
It,
playoffs, Jokic steps up. Now his baseline of like, I mean, like the greatness criteria that we often, say like what is greatness and things that we criticize other players for, being clutch, making your teammates better, taking accountability, being a force, being unstoppable, showing up in big moments, rising in the playoffs. What does he not do?
it's
Other
crazy.
than like look like what you think a star should look like or
Yeah.
act like or talk like or sound like or be from where you want a star to be from, what the fuck does this guy need to do other than what he's doing? He's great. And
He's so good.
it's he's so good. Um yeah.
He's so insanely good, and it's crazy. Like, yeah. I, how do you even? I went back today and I just for shits and gigs, I watched reactions after the Raps went down 2-0 to Milwaukee in 2019, and it was all the same shit. It was all the same shit. It was Stephen A. Smith talking to that pinhead, tall, bald dude. What's his name? I can't remember what his name is.
Okay.
And sorry, Van Pelt, something Van Pelt, right?
Well,
And the
look at this. Luka Jokic and Luka crybabies. He don't play defense. Bro, tell me you don't understand basketball without telling me you don't understand basketball. Jokic doesn't play defense. Just because he doesn't play defense the way you expect him to play defense, he's not a big rim protector. But dude, there's a lot to defense that he does really well.
right, yeah,
That's a really dumb take.
that's super stupid. Scott Van Pelt, that's somebody said Zigsaw Puzzle. Just said it, but they're talking like, and at the time as a Raptors fan, I was scared shitless for sure. But they were talking like these guys didn't just beat the other best team in the NBA in the finals that year, in the playoffs that year. Like they just beat the next best team in the finals, and you can't go and say, this series is done. These guys are getting swept. No chance. If you want to give your opinion, like, oh, it looks like Milwaukee's probably going to take it or whatever, but like these guys talking absolutes, having witnessed so many comebacks year after year. It happens year after year, and it's crazy that they would say it about the champs from last year. It's fucking crazy,
Well,
right?
this is where we're at, right? Now I was thinking about this a lot today in terms of just like there's a video. I can't remember the name of the content creator, but it was like it says 7 things that a man must learn, like 7 skills that a man must learn. And one of them was defending your mind, right? Which means like basically learning how to form your own opinions, right? Now we are I mean, you're a little bit older than I am, but I still remember a little bit
Yes, sir.
about, news when I was younger, right? And it used to be a lot more fact based, right? It
Sure.
was, hey, this thing happened in Queens, or this thing happened in the Bronx, and this is what's up. Now everything's like very opinionated. Everybody's got an opinion, regardless of whether they're capable of forming an educated opinion. And if
Right.
they don't really have an opinion, they're piggybacking off of somebody else's opinion. And so, we're always wanting people to give us the numbers, but then
Right.
tell us what you think about it, right? And so, when people see like Nikola Jokic defensive box plus -4, they're just like this stat is overrated. Look at him blowing this coverage. Look at him, and so you start to look for it. If you want to look, like I think Joel Embiid is a phenomenal defender. But if you want me to make a highlight clip of him blowing coverages, I can make one too.
100%.
I think there is a fundamental misunderstanding of, how we look at the game because everything is still polarized. Either you like Jokic is the fucking greatest thing since sliced bread, or he's heavily overrated and these analytics are completely bullshit. He is the poster child in a lot of ways for analytical value. But another guy who really, really ranks well in the analytical values is LeBron. Another guy who ranks really, really well in analytical values is Jordan. really all great players have ranked
Sure.
very well in terms of value over replacement and box plus minus, but we do not stop trolling these analytics whenever they, you know, inflate a player that we don't
Sure.
rank, you
Sure.
know. But yeah, it's very frustrating to me, and honestly, like, he's earned more than this. Like, he's earned more than to be counted out after 2 games. I think it was
100%.
more the matter of how they won game 2 that I think had a lot of people shook, but should not have counted out the champs, man.
No, they definitely shouldn't. I'm surprised that you stopped short at saying that Jokic isn't better than Shaq. I thought for sure you would have thought that he's like I think he's better than Shaq. He's better
Shaq
at
did it. Shaq's done it longer. One, you don't know if Jokic literally retires next year and then doesn't. So I can't say that in terms of cumulative value. I would say, like,
I feel like if you give Jokic prime D Wade or Kobe, that's fucking lights out for the NBA right now. Like I don't
that's
know.
fair, and I don't think that people fully appreciate, like, how little talent there is around. Like, this is a guy who had home court advantage in the playoffs with one of his best players being Will Barton.
Right.
Like, he's done so much with so little. I
Right.
mean, I heard a take today where someone was trying to talk about OG Anunoby being too injury prone to sign, and then he went on and on and on about how Jamal Murray is the greatest player ever. I'm like,
Sure.
bro, I'm pretty sure Jamal Murray has played fewer games over the last 5 years than OG Anunoby. Like, what are we
Oh yeah,
talking about here?
for
It
sure.
just comes down to takes, right? People
For sure.
have a narrative. They don't like one guy, they like another guy, and then it's like, facts be damned.
Totally.
Okay.
Totally.
So I don't like the way Jokic plays. I don't like where he's from. I don't like how he sounds. I don't like
Yeah.
the style of basketball. He's boring. Yo, I listened to this my whole life with Tim Duncan. Didn't stop him from winning championships. It's not going to stop Nikola Jokic.
No, for sure. Yeah, it's like you touched on it earlier, and piggybacking off of that, like nobody really cares about facts anymore. It's just about what's your take and planting your flag and digging in your heels as much as you can until you're proven wrong. Then you never. Then it's just like, well, we have to give some takes, and sometimes we're wrong, and that's it. Like, well, you could craft your take a little better just to I don't know, make the conversation a little bit more human. But anyway,
here's the comparison: career over career. Okay, so this is worth saying. This is crazy, actually, if you really think about it. So I don't know how much you know about value replacement, but value replacement is a cumulative stat that builds throughout,
sure.
as you play, and typically you accumulate the vast majority of the value in your prime.
Right.
So it's not always fair to compare a guy, because if you had compared Vince, for instance, years 1 through 3 to Michael Jordan, he might have been closer than he was 12 years in.
Right.
Jokic in 675 games has already amassed nearly 64 value of replacement. Shaq has 75 in his entire career and nearly twice as many games. So if Jokic basically has one more year like he had this year, he will pass Shaquille O'Neal in terms of value of replacement.
For sure.
He doubles him in terms of box plus minus. He has a higher effective field goal percentage, free throw percentage, 3-point percentage naturally. And because he shoots threes, his field goal percentage is going to be lower. But if Jokic did not shoot threes, his field goal percentage actually would be higher, guaranteed. His 2-point field goal percentage is higher.
Yep.
He has more steals per game. He has fewer blocks. That's what people are going to hold against him, I think, forever. But other than that, he pretty much does everything better than Shaq. The other thing is, and I mean, like, if we compared peak for peak, there's a really good case to be made for Jokic, man. Like, a really good case to be made. So Shaquille O'Neal, if you ever get this, someone clips this for you. I know some very interesting people watch these shows. I hope someone clips this for you. You are no longer president of the Big Man Alliance.
No,
you have been replaced.
Not even close. No, he's not. I'm sorry. The categories that he loses in free throw percentage, 3-point percentage, he just never presented those problems. Like, was he hard to guard in the post? Yes, of course. Right, in an NBA that allowed for him to be a battering ram, right? And
teams fouled him. Teams fouled him like crazy, man.
Oh,
like,
it's not taking anything away. Not taking anything away.
But in fairness, putting him on the line wouldn't have done him any favors. In a weird way, putting him on the line Like if Shaq got the ball in the paint and he got fouled, if you put him on the line, you're actually doing him a disservice because he
Right.
shot better from the field than he did from the free throw line.
Yeah.
So
You
it
said
makes
it.
sense.
You said it earlier. The only defense for Jokic that could possibly credibly exist right now is if Wemby was 80 pounds heavier. There you go. That's how you're defending Jokic with any sort of, you know, like modicum of potential to stop him. Right? That's it.
Mhm.
But that player does not exist. I'm sorry. Wemby is fantastic, and he makes them work for sure, but he's not heavy enough yet. Right? So
Right.
I don't know, man.
Here's
He's phenomenal. He's
here's
just a great
Jokic.
player.
Here's Jokic against Kareem. So
Kareem is
basically,
85.7.
yeah, in terms of value replacement. So Jokic needs to have 2 more prime years, and he will actually pass Kareem. That's crazy
Sure,
because
sure.
he's around 11 value replacement almost
Right,
every single year, right?
right, right.
So at his pace, and he's 29, and he is not someone who's relying on. He's 28, 29. I think he just turned 29. I don't think people realize what we're witnessing here. Okay, so hold on. Where's his value replacement every single year? Let me just see here. It is shit, bro. So this was his top year in terms of value replacement this year, 10.6. Okay, this is really, really approaching like some LeBron, Michael Jordan shit right here.
Right.
So if he does 8, 7, 6, he's past Kareem. He's already passed Hakeem. He already passed, Duncan. He already passed all these guys.
Right.
So at this point, it's just about securing the rest of the resume. Couple
Right.
more MVPs, maybe a late, career MVP at 34 when he pulls together like some crazy run. Maybe one or two more championships, and
Right.
we're sealed. 3-time championship. Look, I think championships are overrated. Personally,
For sure.
I think it's important that you win. A few. It's great, but are you telling me like if LeBron, doesn't win, if LeBron doesn't go to Miami, how many championships does he have right now? 2, right?
Yeah.
Is he not in the GOAT debate? You know what I mean? Like if he just stayed
Right.
in Cleveland his whole career and he only managed to win 2 championships, but he still did all that other stuff,
For
he's
sure.
not in the GOAT debate. He's absolutely in the GOAT debate.
No, for sure.
I think like we prioritize championships too much when, the conversation of greatest team versus greatest individual has to be separated. It always has to be separated. You cannot you can't tell me look how stacked those Celtics teams were. Like that Larry Bird won with. Is that a discredit to him or a credit to him? It's very
Right.
hard, for me when the debate is always about the individual because of the team. Then I don't know how to isolate those two things. The best
For
way to
sure.
isolate it is actually through this metric of value of a replacement. And that metric is telling me over and over again that Nikola Jokic is on par to be like, he's on track to be a top 5 player of all time.
For sure. For sure. I
Um,
think when
wow.
it's all said and done, I mean, barring injury, I
Mhm.
think he's going to be up there, and I think it's no question. Um, LeBron is top 10, but not top 5. Well, I'll question
That's
that.
crazy.
MJ
LeBron
played.
is not top. LeBron is not top 5. What's your top 5, bro?
I'm
What?
pretty sure. I'm pretty sure MJ would say he's top 5. I don't know. Maybe not. I have no idea.
I'm almost like my God. If Michael Jordan did not admit that LeBron James is a top 5 player, like he's hating at this point. LeBron is
No, for
absolute.
sure.
Yo, I
Jordan
know you're
played in a.
crazy now. Now I know you're fucking crazy. What are you talking about here? He does not make his teammates better? What?
That's his thing,
What?
bro.
Okay. All
Yeah.
right. You're not serious. All right. Um, I don't know.
Anyway,
I can't. I can think of 3 or 4 players that I think definitively. I don't expect him to pass in his lifetime, but he will be. He's the greatest European player of all time. I think that tag has officially been taken from Dirk and Pau and Manu or whoever else you could have given it to, Drazen Petrovic and all those guys. It was a pretty good list. I don't know if it's the list. I think he's past Giannis for sure. And yeah, if he stays on
I
this
think
path, he'll be one of
I
the he'll be one of the you probably
it,
retire as one of the 7 and eight greatest players of all time. He's great.
it the one of the crappiest like NBA sliding doors is the fact that Sabonis only got to play in the NBA for as short a time that he did, because I feel
Mhm.
like he would have been Jokic before Jokic. Like he was. he
He
was
was
phenomenal
Jokic before
passer.
Jokic, and the crazy
Yeah,
thing is, Sabonis was actually way more athletic and even bigger than Jokic. Like
yeah,
people
yeah.
don't realize, like because like he like go ask David Robinson, get David Robinson on record and ask him to tell you how great Arvydas Sabonis was in the '80s. That dude was incredible, man. Like in the youth level before he came into the NBA. Okay, this is truth time. 1996, basically, Sabonis comes over. This is like at least 8 years later than he should have come over, and his
And,
injury and his entire career was ravaged by injuries.
and I feel
With
like he was as old as Jokic is now, right? Like
He was
29, 30.
older, but his
Okay,
body
yeah,
was
right.
so much older. He had put
Yeah,
on
yeah.
so much weight. Like he was unrecognizable. I wish people could see pictures and clips of Arvydas Sabonis in his youth. He was nimble. He was fast. He was like a sprinter, man.
Yeah.
And he was 7'2". And I tell you, even this gigantic head, 300-pound, barely can move, barely can run version of Arvydas Sabonis in his 30s was still one of the top 5 centers in the NBA during the peak of centers, top 6 centers.
Would have
Even
been
at
good
that
to see.
stage, he was great. I mean, because his minutes were low, he played on a super stacked team. We never got to see it. But man, if you put him on like, I don't know, if you put him on like some team in his, early 30s and just said, hey, we're going to put the ball in your hands. We're going to put the ball in your hands like we're doing with DeMontis Sabonis or Jokic. He was fully capable at that stage. He could shoot. He could shoot the three. Like my God, people really don't talk about it, man. Like he's a great player. Like, and I'm glad that DeMontis Sabonis has become as great as he is. He didn't hold a candle to his dad
That's
at
crazy.
all, and he was an
He,
MVP finalist this year. I mean, he was one of the top 7 guys. He doesn't hold a candle to his
no,
dad.
it's like
Go
he's not
ask
even
him.
close. He's not even close to as skilled or as big.
He's
Like,
not even
not
close.
even,
Like,
and he's
imagine
still
what.
fantastic. He's still
And here's the
fantastic.
crazy thing. Imagine like everything we say about DeMontis Sabonis, right? Like everything DeMontis Sabonis is, like he's not the shooter his dad was. And that's the criticism of him. He can't shoot, right? We say, oh, he can't shoot. He can't space the floor. His dad could. And we say he can't defend. And his dad could. His dad was an elite shot blocker. Bro, I
Yeah.
watched a clip my dad showed me when I was a kid of
Long fucking arms.
Arvydas Sabonis, and this was like on a VHS thing, and I wish I could find it. It was like a VHS tape of Arvydas Sabonis literally blocking a shot nearly off the top of the backboard.
Right.
Like just insanity, man. He was so great. There was another clip in that again when we were children, we learn a lot about things that stay with us. There was a pass that he made. I think it was like 5 or 6 feet from an inbound, and this like the clock is running down, and the defenders pressured him, and he was like it was a trap situation. He made a behind the back full court pass and hit the guy right in his pocket. Found him for a layup. I was like, this is greatness I have never seen in my life.
Yeah.
And from that day till this day, I've been looking for a big who would be as great as Arvydas Sabonis in terms of just overall skill set and dominance in that sense. And I think Jokic might be it. I
Oh,
think Jokic
he's
might be it. Um,
100%.
but man, people really underrate Arvydas Sabonis. There's this player's choice clip of me talking about my top 10 players of all time, and I said Arvydas Sabonis was in the conversation after 10, and people lost their fucking minds. They just can't believe it. But it's like, bro, all these people who have comments about this, they never watched him play. They never
Right.
watched him play.
Right. I know like we're a prisoner to highlights and whatever, but just watch some. Just to give you a little taste of what he was all about. But he was insane. He was so good.
I agree.
Uh,
Yeah,
can we talk with the Raps?
yeah, sure. Let's talk about it.
Okay. So my take going into this thing, I think was pretty similar to what you thought in that I kind of wanted to see them get the pick because I would have been intrigued, but it's probably a blessing in disguise if they need to lean into the tank from day one.
Okay.
Day one. I think I've heard you like I've seen a few of your lives in the last couple days, like just bits and pieces, and I've seen you say, or I've heard you say that less or more teams are going to be tanking this year, but isn't
Mhm.
it going to be less because
How?
Charlotte is better?
Being
Charlotte is
better
going to be
doesn't mean
better.
anything. Being better
Well,
doesn't mean anything. It doesn't mean you can't shut down LaMelo for a year. I think the Cooper Flag, hype will be real, man.
Oh, a hundred
If you don't
percent. But
mind, while we're talking, I'm actually going to play 9 minutes of Arvydas Sabonis highlights for anyone who might be curious.
sure.
This is from a YouTube channel called ZGL, and if you reach out to me, I'll actually send you part of the monetization of this video. You don't have to copyright strike or anything. Here, I'm going to put it on, and just so people can see it. I really just want people to be able to see this, and I'll keep it quiet in the back so people can just see who the player was that we're talking about.
Sure.
Anyways, go ahead.
For sure. Yeah. So,
By the way, that's a shattered backboard. He just broke the fucking backboard. Okay. Anyways, go
on. You had mentioned, yeah. So, I was talking about the team. So, I think, as long as LaMelo comes back, I think they're going to be markedly better, right? What's his name's going to be a year better. Brandon Miller's going to be a year better. I think it's safe to say that they're going to be better. I think Wizards and Pistons are going to be equally shit, maybe a little bit better than they are now, but that doesn't say much. They'll still be shit. San Antonio is going to be better, right? So who are the teams dropping down? And I can't for the life of me think of, like, you got to think that Golden State isn't going to blow it up, right? I think they're going to retool. And also, I think Golden State could be the team to trade for Pirtle, right? I feel like if you were to, and that's how you lean into the tank from day one, is that you trade Pirtle before day one, right? You make it so that, like, I know that you're not big on having to convince Scotty, buddy, it's got to be one more year, right? But losing is a weapon in the NBA, and this coming draft, even if you don't get Cooper Flag, there are a bunch of superstar upside guys that are in the draft, and, like, there's a few. I only did a little bit of research over the last couple of days, but, like, Dylan Harper looks amazing. Ace Bailey looks amazing. There's this.
Everybody looks amazing in high school, man. Everybody looks amazing in high school. But I agree with you. In general, I agree with you on those three players.
There's that dude, Kaman Maluak, the center, the African center there. I can't remember. Was he from Sudan or something? Yeah, South Sudan. Like 7'6" with a 3-ball, good defender. Like, I mean, like, guys like this is why you tank, and you lean into the tank from day one. You let it be known that you're going to tank, and you try to get a top 5 pick, right? And I think if you do that, you give yourself a chance to become way better, way quicker than if you do this sort of half-hearted, like, you're not getting Paul George, right? You're not getting anyone that's going to be, even if you get Malik Monk, I don't think that's a good move. I think you let the guys sort of do what they can do. You let the core 3 guys do what they can do. Core 4, if you want to include Grady, right? Do what they can do, take their lumps, right? And be like, next year is when we make our move.
No, I don't think that's going to happen, and I can give you 5,000 reasons why. But I think one of the things that is most relevant here is, they really do believe in Scotty. They really do believe that they have that franchise guy in him, and you just don't ask guys who are 22, who are franchise guys in their prime. You don't ask them to waste an entire season so you can get a draft pick. He's not going to be behind this. And they certainly did not do everything they did this year, implementing a winning culture and all that stuff. You can say you control it. You could say they lost so much, how they implement a winning culture. But
sure,
everything they did this year was, to play the right way. Unless you have, and touch wood, I hope it never happens, some sort of massive injury to one of your key guys, there's no way this team is going to be bad enough to tank, bro. I don't think they're going to be bad enough to be a top 7, top 8 team, top 8 seed in terms of lottery odds. You might end up in the Atlanta situation where you try not to tank and then you win the lottery with a 3% chance. Maybe you end up in that situation. And again, with the flattening of the lottery odds, that's always on the table now, right?
Right.
But I don't think I don't think you understand how bad these other teams are going to be.
I mean, besides Detroit and Washington, who's going to be like Portland. They're frisky, if
No,
Scoot gets
man,
a year
because the
better.
problem is they play in the West. Who the fuck are they beating on an average
That
night?
is true.
Who is Portland going to beat?
That is true. That
Right?
is, and that's such a bitch. Like the West has every advantage, even for their lower teams,
Well,
even
that's
for
the
the
whole
lower end
point of
teams.
the draft, though, right? Because if the concept here is San Antonio has to compete with Denver, LA, etc., I mean, they have to be given that advantage in the draft as well, right? So that makes sense to me. You may not see it
Man,
as an advantage because it negatively impacts the team that you root for. But
yeah.
if the tables were flipped, I'm sure you would see it as an advantage. If the East was stacked and the Raptors were getting pounded in the East, you'd be like, damn it, we need some fucking help here, right? So yeah, I mean, I fully see it. Yeah.
So
Um,
what? Okay, what if they were to flip before day one of the season, right?
okay.
They package together, they
Jakob
package
Poeltl.
together Pirtle and Bruce Brown
Okay.
to Golden State in exchange for their worst contracts and Moses Moody, or not even Moody, their first round pick next year, right? Are you
What
saying no to that?
am I saying no to that?
Yes.
Yes, because now their first round pick is trash. What are you doing here? You're doing that much just to worsen your own pick? And
Yeah,
you're not
but
getting
no,
shit back for it because if you give them Jakob Poeltl and you take back their worst contract, I mean, first of all, you have to make salaries match here. Not easy to do with a $20 million
no,
center who
they would
can't shoot.
they would
So,
they would have to get Wiggins more than
okay,
likely.
so you really think that Andrew Wiggins and Moses Moody don't help you win almost as much as Jakob Poeltl? Probably. They're close. Given the lack
Maybe.
of wing defenders on this team, look, man, I think it's a binomial thing. Every single night you either win or lose. And if there are other teams around you that are better at losing, you're gonna have to out tank them. It's hard to out tank teams that are being so flagrantly bad. And again, I think there's a chance that maybe the teams that you think are going to be bad are not going to be the teams that are going to be really bad. You don't know if Chicago blows this shit up. You just don't know. Right now,
They're
you're
not.
you're you're being a
They're
bit
not
of a
going to.
prisoner in the moment, in my opinion. So you're thinking like, hey, Detroit was bad. They're not going to be able to do anything to get significantly better. What if they do get significantly better? Like, what if
Hey,
Brassard?
I'm all for that. I'm all for that. Please get better.
I
That'd be
mean,
great.
you don't necessarily want to be for that because, again, the more parity there is, the less separation there is at the bottom of the league, the closer you are to that mud pile that is the blase no man's land, the worse this can be for you, right? There's a way to be like a 25 win team and still be like 13th. There's also
True.
a way to be a
True.
25 win team and be ninth.
But
Well,
that's what I'm
not
saying. If you
really, but realistically. But
let's say they round into that 25 to even 30 win team, right? All it takes is for a couple of, you know, tanky tanky decisions. Like you alluded to this in your live earlier today, where we're in, or sorry, I don't remember if it was today or yesterday that you put it together, but you said something to the what did you say? It was like you all you do is like make a few uh just make a few decisions that a few technical decisions that sort of it leans you into losing just a little bit, and you would take a team that probably could power its way to 25 to 30 wins, and you just eke it back a little bit. Memphis, that's another team that's going to be better for sure next year, and they were
okay.
sixth worst this year, seventh worst,
Hmm.
right? You could credibly get into the bottom eight without doing that much, right? And you get into the bottom eight, fuck, bro. Cooper Flag with Scotty. Oh my god, they would be amazing together. They'd be so good because they're they're not like Vince and T Mac where they want their own teams, right? Like they want to give the ball up
Hmm.
to the other players. They're like selfless players that play the right way. I can't think of a better pairing
I
to
can.
like, or who
AJ Devonsa and Scotty,
AJ Debonsa. I don't know him.
2026 first pick, man.
Oh right.
Okay. So here's the thing. Celtics are going to be just as good, if not slightly worse. Knicks getting healthy, possibly, getting a little bit more continuity. They're 20-5 or 25-5 with OG and Anunoby, or 20 and
Right.
5 or 25-5. Either way, they're going to be around this good. The Milwaukee Bucks, they're a team that could fall a step, or they could be better. I don't know. The Cleveland Cavaliers, depending on what happens with Donovan Mitchell, they're probably going to be around this level. The Magic are rising. The
Yep.
Pacers are probably going to be a little bit better. The
Right.
Sixers are probably going to be a little bit better. The
Yep.
Heat are probably going to be a little bit worse. Okay. The
Heat are
Bulls are
gonna.
going to probably be much worse. The Hawks can, if they move it right, be much better. The Nets could be a little bit worse. The Raptors could be a little bit better. The Hornets could be a little better. The Wizards could be a little worse, actually. And the Pistons could be a little bit better. So the best case scenario is you get leapfrogged by these three teams. You end up at almost exactly the same record despite being a better team. But the problem is all these other teams aren't static. They'll see the writing on the wall. And they'll start shutting down guys. It's simply something we have not shown a willingness to do. We were still playing guys towards the end of the season. And I know that there was some sort of desperate bid, and I think that it kind of makes the sting of losing this pick so much worse because there was a
Sure.
bit of a push towards the end
For
of the
sure.
season to
For
tank,
sure.
and you still lost it. So it's like shit, you actually did, you know. But I don't think there was anything so flagrant done to tank. Do you know what I mean? It's not like they shut down Scotty. The injury shut down Scotty. It's not like
Right.
they didn't shut down RJ. His brother passed away. You know what I
Right.
mean? But there's another thing of actually like asking guys to sit. Like there's something that the Raptors are comfortable doing, which is extending absences,
Yes. That's
right?
it.
So Scotty might have been able to play in a regular, in a normal setting. If the Raptors were chasing a playoff spot, I guarantee you he's back 5 games to the end of the season. He would have been back. He recovers like Wolverine. He would have definitely been back.
Sure.
So they just gave him 5 more games, and they're just like, you know what?
Sure.
There's no point in risking an injury. Start on your off season. You have a busy summer
100%.
ahead. Okay. It's a completely different situation to go to a perfectly healthy Scotty Barnes and say, we're going to load manage you in the 4th game of the season, or 6th game of the season. Or,
Sure.
hey, Jakob Poeltl, we're just going to trade Jakob Poeltl, and you're going to play with no center. Because, that is possible to lose a lot of games that way. I get that. But players are not stupid. They understand you're trying to lose. And now you start to build bad culture again, right? Where guys start losing the focus. If the whole point of this program is to build it up and to increasingly get better, look at how the OKC Thunder, they've gotten a little bit better, a little bit better. So
They're my perfect example.
okay.
OKC Thunder. They
So
had to sell losing to Shea for how many years?
congratulations, but that's a completely different equation than going out like and you're right. You're right. Okay, you're totally right. And I don't think that two wrongs make a right. I don't think doing that over. Look, I don't look at what the Detroit Pistons did. Now, imagine if we do what you're saying to do, right? And let's
Yep.
just say we manage to get to the 3rd spot from the bottom. Like, let's say we end up being the Wizards, okay? And let's say somehow, we're at 20 games and we're 2nd from the bottom, and you're licking your chops. It's Cooper Flag 2.0. Let's go, baby. At best case, you still have like a 14% chance of getting him.
For sure.
13% chance of getting.
Oh,
And you could end up with the 6th pick for all that losing and all that culture and all that
it's
fucking
true.
bad mood juju that you've built up with your fans. You get the 6th pick. Was that worth it? You know what I mean?
But that's why I say like lean into trying to finish bottom 6 to 8. You know what I mean?
Bottom
Like
6 to 8 doesn't guarantee you shit. Bottom 6 to 8, there's a team
no,
that finished bottom
exactly.
6 that just picked 8th today.
No,
Look at the Memphis
100%.
Grizzlies. You know how bad the Memphis Grizzlies were this year? No one's talking about this. You know how bad the Memphis Grizzlies were this year? They were terrible, right?
Right.
They had no jaw. They traded away guys. They shut down guys. They were playing fucking G Leaguers towards the end of the season, right? What
Where
happened?
did they finish?
9th. They're picking 9th.
But
The Raptors got the 8th pick. The Raptors transferred an 8th pick because Memphis transferred a 9th pick.
But 9th this year versus 9th next year are two pretty big. Like that's a big difference.
But what I'm
I
saying is that obviously they were not aiming at ninth. They were aiming at sixth. They fell to seventh, and now they fell to
100%.
ninth. And, look at the Atlanta Hawks. They were a play-in team. Do we realize this? A play-in team just won the lottery.
It's true,
Dude, that's
but
something to think about. You
it's
can
true,
make the
but
play in and lose and still get a top four pick. I mean, you don't have to go all the way number one. You're talking about three
how
players. So, what if the Raptors look, I'm just trying to tell you, Masai Ujiri and Bobby Webster do not operate the way that fans want them to operate. They never do. Sometimes it's nonsense, sometimes it makes sense. I fully believe that this team, with the players that they have, is just way too good to be as bad as you want them to be. I just don't think it's going to happen.
I think we need to, man. I think if you get into the top 5 next year, you now have a piece in the same way that, like, so
You
how
already
many years?
have pieces.
No, but I mean a
Bro,
major piece.
RJ Barrett is a top 3 pick. Scotty Barnes is a top 5 pick. You got two of those players right now. Grady Dick, I mean, I know he wasn't a top 5 pick, but he was a lottery pick. Emmanuel Quickly, if okay, be real. If they could do the 2020 if they could do the 2020 draft all over again, where would Emmanuel Quickly go? He would be a lottery pick. You
Right.
got 4 lottery talents on this team.
You got to give yourself as many kicks of the can as you can in the shortest amount of time that you can. And I mean, when I say kicks of the can, I mean the kicks of the can at stars, right? Especially this team, because we're not a destination. We
Yeah,
don't
but
we don't we
who's
don't
to say
trade.
you can't find a star at 19? Who's you drafted a
Eh,
two-time All NBA guy at 27. I understand the appeal of high draft picks. I get it. But it's only a small part of the equation, man. Like there's this guy on Twitter, and I'm not going to name him, but he always goes nuts over these prospects. You would think the way he talks about Rob Dillingham right now, that Rob Dillingham was going to come in and be fucking Allen Iverson next year. And it's just not the case. It's really hard to watch young players, especially players like Cooper Flag, dominate in high school. Watching a player like Stephon Castle or watching Donovan Clingan or someone like that win a national championship, it's hard not to watch those guys and say, damn, that guy's going to be really great. That guy could save everything. But do you know that just 2 years ago, Ochai Abaji was a lottery pick who won a national championship, and he was the best player on that national championship team? And right now, we have Raptor fans who are talking about him like maybe we gave up too much by giving the 30th pick up for him. I'm saying there's a real blind spot in terms of how we talk about draft picks and prospects and whatever. And what I'm saying is there are different ways to generate value. Here's a significant oversight when people don't realize when they talk about tanking. You not only tank the value of your own team in terms of valuation, which is a significant value drop for MLSC, you not only sort of ruin equity with your fans, the ones who are still around, still watching, you also sort of not only do you tarnish somewhat of the goodwill you have with your players, because now they play in a losing team and who the hell wants to do that, but you also sort of tarnish the trade value of the assets you have. Bruce Brown, when we traded for him, was worth more than Bruce Brown is today. Fact. There
well,
are, go ahead.
I'll say this. I am a proponent of always trying,
Mm-hmm.
unless you have the ability to minimize your window, specifically because a specific draft is rife with high-end talent. If next year's draft was this year's draft, a million times out of a million, I would say no. You try, you do what you can, you try to win every game, right? But next year's draft is special, right? And so that's why it's not like, you don't. Okay, when I say tank, I don't mean like, okay, rest all your players, don't make it so blatant or whatever. But like, someone's got nagging injury here or there, you give them three or four extra games to rest, right? You try out small ball lineups, knowing that with no rim protection, you might give up a few more points, right? You try Scotty, you
Who are you
try Scotty.
fooling? Who are you fooling? Are you fooling yourself? Are you fooling the players? Are you fooling the coaches? Who
Well,
are you
listen,
fooling?
I mean, sorry, they did it to some degree this year, just
Sure.
specifically with Quickly, just as
Mm-hmm.
get out there and see what you can do as a point guard. Like we know that that's not his best. That's not his best.
Here's a
That's not
worthwhile
his best
question to
position.
ask you. If the Raptors try their best, is there a chance they could still end up with a lottery pick next year?
If they try their best, yes, I think
Okay,
they're still going to
great,
end up in the lottery for sure.
great. Okay, perfect. So if they try their best and they end up in the lottery, let's just say, let's play hypothetical. We're having this conversation in 2030 and we're talking about the 2025 draft in which the Raptors drafted ninth. Is that fair? If they try their best, they still end up at
Sure,
ninth.
sure.
Okay. Let's say we have this conversation in 2030 and I say, yo, Vince, can you believe that the second best player in the 2025 draft was picked ninth and the Raptors got him? Do you believe me? Or is that like, no way, I can't believe that happened?
I think okay, obviously I'm not a soothsayer. I'm not a crazy like lottery evaluator, but from what I have watched, next year's top 5 kind of reminds me of the LeBron, D Wade, Chris Bosh.
Dear God,
Who
there is
who else am I
nobody on LeBron's level in this
No, no,
draft.
no. I just
Not
mean
even
like in
close.
I just mean in terms of like who the top 5 guys are. You know what I mean? Like in that draft specifically, the top 4 or 5 best guys were taken top 4 or 5.
Look,
There
man,
might be
I've watched a lot of Cooper Flag. Like I would take him over Chris Bosh, the prospect. I would have some questions about Carmelo Anthony, the prospect,
right.
after coming off the national championship at Syracuse. So
Sure.
maybe at best you're talking about the best player in this draft being the fourth player taken in that draft. I don't want to hear any Darko Milicic slander right now.
Sure.
He was a
Sure.
really
Sure.
big
Sure.
prospect. So
Sure.
um, yeah, I think there's a gap. The where to tank would have been last year. Victor Wembanyama, Amen Thompson, whatever.
100%. Oh my God. I wish to God they would have tanked last year. Even if
Right.
they didn't get Wemby, right? You get one of the
I
Thompson
think I
twins, you
just I
get
just think like there's a okay, I'm always curious about fans who want to tank at all costs. I'm not a big tank person. I'm not like if you could evaluate me in my 24 years of Raptor fandom, because I've been a fan of this team for 24 years now, 24, 25 years. Okay. My average position is anti-tank. Average.
right, right.
Very seldom have I ever pushed for a tank. I
Same.
pushed for
I'm
a
I
tank last year, because it was inevitable that the season was already lost and there was nothing to save. And,
right.
Scotty was having a horrible year. And I just said, fuck it. I was pro tank last year. Um, I would have been pro tank in Tampa. I didn't have a
Yep.
channel back then, but I was pro tank in Tampa. I was pro tank, ironically, when We the North started. I was pro tank at that point. The Raptors were abysmal. And I was like, yeah, fuck, blow it up, trade DeMar, trade Kyle, whatever you got to do, just start over.
Hmm.
Although I was a little anti-trade DeMar and Kyle personally, I really like the players, but I was really pro like trading, Jonas Valanciunas and stuff. Like I was like, fuck it, like let's start over. These guys
Right.
ain't it. Um, I was pro tank the year the Raptors got bounced playing Bargnani, Jermaine O'Neal, and Chris Bosh as a front court against the Magic. That year I was like, fuck this shit. And I was pro tank the year Vince Carter got hurt and the Raptors went on that huge, huge run to end the season. So
Right.
very rarely have I been pro tank. Maybe like 6 years out of 25 years, I've been pro tank. So my
Sure.
average position is compete. And the reason I say that is because I know that the end goal is always going to be championships, right? The end
Right.
goal is championships. And so the sooner you start the path towards that inevitable end goal, the sooner it will come to fruition. Now, you're talking about winning championships eventually, right? How
Yes, sir.
soon is Cooper Flag going to hit his peak? If he hits his peak, big if. How
I
soon is
think
Dylan Harper going to
within,
hit his? They're 17, 18 years old right now, dude.
of course, but given like I mean, just watch them. They
Uh huh.
they don't look like fucking 17, 18-year-olds to me,
Because they're
right?
playing against 17 and 18-year-olds. That's why they don't look like 17 and 18 year
Yeah,
olds.
but
If
okay,
you saw
but
LeBron James in fucking like grade school, he didn't look like a grade schooler because he was playing against other grade schoolers. If you saw LeBron James in grade school playing against NBA players, he would have gotten walked.
I mean, I don't like I look back at like, you look at like Stephon Castle tape. And when he was in high school, I'm not like wowed like by anything he's doing on the court. I'm fucking wowed by Cooper Flag. Like that guy looks like Jesus Christ. This guy's like he seems can't miss, right? Is that 100%? Of course not. right? But and I, like you, have not been a proponent of like I've not been Captain Tank. I haven't been Tank Sinatra my entire Raptors throughout my entire Raptors fandom. It's only in select years, and you try to minimize the window as best as possible,
What is the
right?
floor
So,
on Cooper Flag as a prospect? Give me like the worst case scenario based on what you've seen. I'll give you mine
worst
too.
case, Andre
hmm
Kirilenko.
That's
Worst case,
worst case.
yes,
Jesus
yes,
fucking Christ. That's the
yes,
worst case.
yes, yes. He looks so good.
Andre
Look
Kirilenko
at
is so underrated, man.
and he. Sorry, I'm saying that as a Kirilenko fan. I think Kirilenko's fucking amazing, and I think that's I think that is like just look at his feel. Look at his like take away his athleticism, take away his shooting, his clutch, take all that shit away and just like look at feel for the game. And that guy looks like he is him, right? And so and again, I don't want to get too overly caught up on Cooper Flag. Like it's foolish to go into a draft saying Wembanyama or bust. You know, you have a what do you say, a 16% chance if you finish top four or bottom four, that you have a 16% chance, or is it 9% chance? What is it?
You said you were Andre Kirilenko fan, right?
Yeah,
Do you know that
that's
Andre Kirilenko posted a 9.2 box plus minus in a season in which he was not crowned an all-star?
I'm not. Yeah, I'm not surprised about that.
Andre Kirilenko, through his first 4 years, was on track to be the greatest defensive player of all time, if not one of the top three defensive players of all time. His analytical impact through those first 4 years was somewhat muted by the fact that he was a foreign player, that he played in
Right.
Utah. But dude, from
Who took?
3.7
Was
box
it?
plus minus as a rookie at the age of 20 to 5.8 to 7.9 to 9.2.
He's so
Let
good.
me tell you this. If Cooper Flag flashes a 9.2 in his fourth year, I'll give you $50. It's not going to happen. And if he
I
doesn't, and if he
That's
doesn't, you
50
give me.
bucks.
Hold on, I'll give you $50. If he doesn't, you give me $5. You make that deal?
I'll make that deal for sure,
You're
and I'll take
crazy.
and I'll
You're
take you out for
crazy,
I'll take you out for
dude.
wings
No,
and beer.
don't do
I
this.
will take
As
you
your
out for
friend and
wings and
financial
beer.
advisor, I cannot let you make this deal. You just pissing away $5, bro.
That's
There's no
fine. That's
chance.
fine. I got
Nine point
$5 in
two box
change
plus
in my
minus.
pouches. Listen,
Oh,
listen. He looks good. He looks good. And trust me, I'm not the tank guy. For sure, I'm
okay.
not the tank guy. But I I just like I like to evaluate what the other teams around the league have done. I feel like Houston has done like Houston is they tanked. They like capital T tanked for several years, right? And look at them now. They're on their way up. They got some good draft picks, right? Took a
Mhm.
little while for Jalen Williams to, or no, sorry, Jalen. Uh, so who's there too? Jalen. The
Who
fuck,
you
I'm blanking
talking
right
about?
now.
OKC?
No, no, no. Houston. Jalen.
Green.
Jalen Green. Jalen Green took him a little bit of time. They hit on Alpi. They hit on Amen Thompson, right? They gave themselves a few kicks at the can, right? But they did it in extended fashion.
You know
We
what's
had
important
one
here?
shit
They
year
didn't use all their own picks though. They traded for picks, bro. Like
for sure.
look at how the Celtics accumulated all those assets. They
Yeah, but we
traded
did
for them. Okay,
right,
so what I'm
but
trying
we
to
didn't
tell
have
you is like we can trade for picks, package
oh,
picks, trade for picks. You don't have to always tank your way to the
no,
bottom.
but that helps. Sorry, that trading your way to two picks helps the tank. You know what I mean? Like you're actively getting worse, and then while not completely bottoming out. Look at
Bro,
with
you feel like a
quickly.
GTA character right now who's trying to sell me on this like really, really bad idea. It's
I don't think it's
not,
that bad, bro. I don't think it's that bad.
it's bad.
I think you do it.
It's
I think you
bad.
do it for one more year. I think you do it one more year, and then you do what Houston did, in that you overpay for for a high-end role player, right, to help the squad you have, along with drafting,
What the fuck do you think?
whoever you
What do
want.
you think Kelly Olynyk and Jakob Poeltl are?
Well, that's why you trade. That's why you trade
You
Jakob.
already got those guys. You already got your high end role players who are there to teach everyone how to be professional. You already got your Garrett Temple, and you didn't have to pay no $40 million to get him, right? I'm just saying, okay, first of all, regardless of what you want to do, regardless of what I want to do, I can guarantee you the Raptors are not going to tank next year. This was always going to be a one time thing for them. If they inadvertently end up being bad next year because they suffer some injuries, get off to a really cold start, etc., that's a completely different situation. They'll pull the plug on the season midway through. They'll tell Scotty, "Hey, we gave you 40 games to turn the shit around. You guys got like 8 wins right now. You're 8-28. Your season's over, or 8-32. Your season's over. We're pulling the plug." In
Oh,
which case, fine. Now you tank. But I don't think, like, you'll see it from the moves they make. Like, guaranteed, you can see it. Like, what they do with Bruce Brown will determine, in my opinion, whether they want to tank or not. You're
oh
bringing
yeah,
in
you
young players
try to
into a
get a
losing
pick.
like, you're going to bring in these 19, the 19th pick and the 31st pick into a losing situation. You're going to extend, your losing streak of, bad seasons from 3 out of 4 years. You're going to have bad seasons with one playoff berth. You're going to lose even more fans. You're going to lose even more value, more equity with your players, more equity with free agents, more equity with, agents. You're going to lose more equity around the league in terms of being a laughing stock again. There's a lot of consequences, and you're going to be 1 year further away from getting that very valuable playoff experience. Look, I think that
I
Scotty
don't
is
know,
good
man.
enough. I think Scotty is good enough next year to lead you to the play-in.
Sorry,
Okay.
before San Antonio tanked for Wemby, were they
Mm-hmm.
considered laughing stocks?
That's different. It's a completely different situation. We have not built up a 20-year dynasty. And first of all, I think a lot of people had pretty much ignored San Antonio since Kawhi got traded. Like, no one's paid attention to DeJounte Murray. That's why people are so surprised by how good Derek White is right now, because no one fucking watched him in San Antonio, and now they're all shocked that he's so good. He's
I
been
fucking
good
knew
for
that
a
guy was
long
good.
time.
I know.
Well,
He
that's what I
was just
say.
hurt.
But that's my point. You don't have to tank for these guys. What are the odds? Like, here's a really fun question. What are the odds that the 5th pick in next year's draft for the first 7 years of his Raptor career is as good as Derek White is going to be for the first 7 years of his Celtics career? Zilch. Almost zero. If, like, okay, like 5%. So that's what I'm saying. These lottery picks, like, as much as I value them in the right situation, when you're an old team that's ready to tear it down, if you're the Chicago Bulls and Michael Jordan's just retired and Scottie Pippen's gone, yeah, for sure, tank for Elton Brand, and pray on the lottery gods. But until you hit the right player, and I'm trying to tell you, the right player belongs in different places in every draft. It's almost
Sure.
never the first overall pick. If I sort you through the history of the league, how often would you suspect that the first overall pick is the leader in win shares or the leader in value of replacement? It doesn't happen as often as you think it would. And so often it ends up being a player who's picked in the 40s, picked in the teens, picked in the late lottery, picked towards the end of the draft. Like, it's
Sure.
crazy. This value can be everywhere. The Raptors have two major advantages over most teams that I'm not saying they don't ever need to tank, but I'm saying they can find value in places because, number one, excellent scouting team. Number two, suddenly they can develop again, right?
Right.
So you take an average 8th overall pick and you put them in the Raptors' hands with Jama and Darko, they're going to get the most out of that player. And lottery
For
talent
sure.
is lottery talent. We're seeing it with Grady. We're seeing it with RJ. We're seeing it with these guys that even if you weren't the first overall pick, you have two, like be real. You have 3 All-Americans on your team right now. You have two Gatorade National Player of the Years on your team in Grady and RJ. They're not chopped liver. And I refuse to believe, like,
But
if Grady,
that's why I
bro,
think that
here's the question for you. Here's like
okay.
a real thing. If Grady Dick had gone back to Kansas, let's just say Grady Dick loses his mind. He eats the NIL money. He just wants to stay close to home, whatever. Let's say he goes back to Kansas and he ascends further. And let's just say he skips this year's draft as well. And let's say he goes in next year's draft. Okay. That player, that player, if he continued to ascend up and continue to be good, would be in his 3rd year coming out of Kansas, probably
Sure.
would have a national championship, will be the best shooter in the country. He might be the 6th pick or the 5th pick in the 2025 draft.
To
And
me,
and
all
at
these
this
things that
point,
you're saying,
you would be trying to sell me on how we need to tank for
no,
Grady Dick.
but
And
all
Grady
the
Dick is
stuff,
on your fucking roster right now, and
all the stuff
you
that
want him to tank games.
all the stuff that you're telling me right now is fortifying my my position because
Why? We didn't have to
well,
tank for
because
Grady Dick.
no, but what we could do is sort of low key tank while giving Grady the requisite reps needed to become that guy that we
But
think he
that's not
can be.
tanking. That's not tanking. We're not.
I mean,
You're just saying like being young is being bad.
yeah,
And
it's what you do is you make him a starter next year. You say Gary hit the bricks. I think I think he could help us, but we don't need you right now. And we're going to give those reps to Grady. And guess what? Grady is still not going to put on enough muscle to hold his own defensively next year, right? But you let it happen anyway, right? And that's sort of like kind of a mild way of leaning into the tank a little bit. No, but see, okay,
if
I
Scotty
probably
and Jakob play 50 if Scotty and Jakob play 60 plus games next year, if RJ and IQ play 60 plus games next year, if Grady becomes even 10-15% better than he is right now, and you do anything of consequence with all the assets you have right now, which means maybe hitting on a serviceable role player with one of those later picks, you get a college senior. Not all players in the draft are going to be contributing to losing. Jaime Jaquez contributed to winning. Trace Jackson Davis contributed to winning. Brandon Pajimski contributed to winning. So if
of
you take
course.
an older rookie, like with the 19th pick or 31st pick, that player might contribute to winning. You still have your MLS, you have your mid-level exception, you have trade assets, you have contracts that can be dangled out. If you do anything of consequence, anything of good consequence, and you also have Kelly Olynyk, you could have. I'm just telling you, this team, like one more year under Darko, the added familiarity. You're not trading 15 different guys. You're not running out 31 different players on your roster.
Right.
All of these things contributed to the loss. The Raptors are not as bad as you think they are. That's what I'm saying. Like, I think your entire
I'm
argument hinges on the fact that they're a 30-win team. And what you're saying is, hey, Rob, to turn a 30-win team into an 18-win team is not that hard. I think that's kind of what you're saying. And I'm trying to tell
yeah,
you, they're not a 30-win team. They're like a
I think
38-win team.
I think they
And
got to be like a 20, 24, 25 win team. And I think a
wow,
30 win team can easily go down to that with the right kind of moves, right? And I think that they
but that's what
also
I'm
have
saying. They're not a 30-win team. So the baseline of what we're starting this discussion is totally it's not meeting. So you think they're a 30-win team that can make it down to 24. So 6 additional games lost. Okay, fine. That I would agree with. But we're not a 30-win team in my opinion. I think we're like a 37 to 38 win team. And to get to 24 wins would require a lot of weird, funky business.
okay, where's the I just want to look at the standings here.
Check it out.
What do we finish with?
I'm gonna bring Fa on as well. Fa, what's
Yeah,
up,
for
man?
sure. For sure.
Yeah, hi. I was just listening to what you guys are saying, right? So let me. I joined like about 5 minutes ago. So first of all, you're right. We're not a 30-win team. We won 25 games last year, right? People forgot that when Scotty and Jacopoto got injured, we lost I think 19 of the last 21 games. If we,
Something like that, yeah.
ideally, if those guys played, we would have won 30 something games, probably around between 32 to 35. I
Hmm.
think with all the players we have, right, if we do the right things and if there's no injury or maybe they're healthy, we're close to 38 to 42 wins team. And people also
I
forgot that
I
Scott
disagree.
is Scott is going to develop further, right? RJ is going to be better. The Ibaji is going to be better. Even Grady Dick is going to be better. So I think we're better than people feel that we are right now, to be honest with you.
I think it's also there's a couple of things that really matter. RJ and IQ. Let me give you the laundry list of why the Raptors were so bad this year. See if I hit on anything that makes sense to you. Number one, Jakob Poeltl. I can't order this in order of like most significant reason to least significant reason, but there's a lot. Okay. Number one, Jakob Poeltl. Number two, roster turnover. There is a significant, like, especially when you consider everyone was new. Everyone was new to the system that you were playing. Okay. Even the guys who were here had to learn a completely new system under a completely new coach, completely new habits, completely new roster, completely new philosophy of basketball. It does not help that the new philosophy is completely counter to the previous philosophy. So they have to completely change the way they think about basketball. That takes time. Okay. That's the second thing. Third thing, youth. He played a very young team last year. Scotty was younger. He'll be older this year. Everyone will be older this year. And a lot of those guys are coming back. Number 4, Scotty's injury, right? Scotty's injury, I think, played a huge part into the lack of success the team had. There's also the emotional, losing all those players. How emotionally draining must it be to have trade rumors hanging over your head, having a player in the locker room kind of sulking a little bit? All of that, we saw that in the previous year. I thought they were a 48 win team the previous year when they won 41 games. They underperformed both years. Okay. Then you take into the fact that the Raptors didn't actually implement a winning defense last year. They let guys guard straight up in order to develop skills. It's the same thing with the offense. This offense generated some of the best looks in the NBA, but the finishing talent wasn't there. This defense has some very capable athletes in terms of defense. Everyone's saying the Raptors defense is terrible. How are they ever going to defend? Bro, they weren't even trying to defend last year. I know that sounds crazy, but if the Denver Nuggets abandoned all their defensive schemes and started putting every player on an island and said, hey, Jamal Murray, I know you can't move your feet left and right, and I know that you lose screeners all the time. We're going to do nothing to help you. The Denver Nuggets would lose every single game. So that's what I'm trying to say. And everyone will be talking about how awful he is. That's the job of coaching. The coaches are going to optimize the roster to the end result that they're looking for. And there's a fallacy in place that the Raptors are always trying to win games. They weren't trying to win games last year. But there is a limit to when you can do this and how long you can do this before you can't do it anymore. So, yeah, sure. If the Raptors stumble out of the gate, I have no doubt that Masai Ujiri and Bobby Webster are going to pull the plug on this midway through the season, and they're going to start resting guys. They're going to start, maybe trading some guys. Maybe they'll start exploring trades for Jakob Poeltl, and everyone's going to be on the table. Whenever you underperform, people get on the table. People are put on the table. But what I'm trying to say is, what I would rather do than go out there and try to lose games like this, personally, is I would rather trade players for picks and let them lose the games. I don't want to, I think there's like a residue to losing that's really hard to shake.
I
That's
think
why you
people
just do it
forgot
for a
that
short period of time.
Atlanta was the 10th worst team, and Brooklyn Nets was the 9th worst team, and they got the first and the third pick. So
fair. In fairness, the Brooklyn Nets do not get to keep their pick. They have to give it to the Houston Rockets.
You still also
but look at Houston.
Pick, right?
Houston is a great example.
It was Brooklyn's record that they used, right?
Right. But that's what I'm saying. Like, you have a team like that. Like, I just think that to some extent, there's so many extenuating circumstances that had to happen last year in order for the Raptors to be as bad as they were. And I just don't think that you're going to be able to repeat that this year as people get better. I think you're just automatically better. I think if we start playing the season out right now with the roster you have right now, and everyone just comes back, Gary comes back, all these guys just come back. You don't do anything other than just bring everyone back. You're immediately better. Not much better, but you're immediately better. Just because of internal growth, because of continuity, because of familiarity, because of all that stuff, you'd be immediately better. It took so many guys being out for the Raptors to properly start losing games. If Jakob Poeltl just plays the second half of the season, you probably win 4 more games. He's that important. He's not that important because he's so good a player. He's that important because of what you played instead of him. We played Javon Freeman Liberty real rotation minutes. We played Jalen McDaniels every fucking night to make my eyes bleed. We played, like, I'm forgetting the names of some of the players we played. Who was that center that we played towards the end of the season? That was horrible. Couldn't catch a basketball. Do you remember him? Bueller? Does anyone remember his name? Vince, your audio's gone. FA, is your audio gone too?
My audio is fine.
You don't remember the guy's name?
Okay, I can hear
me.
Walters or something like that.
I think it was Malik Williams, yeah.
There we go. Malik Williams, Mohamedou Gay. Are these guys NBA players? No, they are not. They are G League players. We played G League players. And we still didn't end up with the top 4, worst player, worst pick. It's really hard to be worse than we were this year. That's what I'm trying to say, man. And
The
You
NBA
think
is a
you still
superstars
have the
league.
Charlotte
You need
Hornets,
superstars.
you still have the Charlotte Hornets, the Wizards, the Pistons here, right? Even Portland Trailblazers. You're not gonna tank those teams this year.
that's what I'm saying, man. And like it's really hard for any team in the East to be worse than some of the worst teams in the West. But I do want to say, at some point, I think that the Raptors can have a different strategy in terms of getting good. And I think what their strategy should be is to become vultures. Okay, scavengers. Find other teams that are in a worse situation and fleece them. The way the Utah Jazz have fleeced teams, the way the Boston Celtics fleeced teams, and the way the Houston Rockets fleeced teams. Find a team that is desperate and get them to give up something they don't know that they're giving up. So, for instance, a Phoenix Suns team, right? Depleted, capped out, maxed out. Okay, take a contract off their books and give them some young players or some sort of value, some sort of roster depth that they so covet. Be willing to let go of these, role players that you value so much, Masai Ujiri, and take back a first round pick or something. The
But
problem is they
they
don't
don't
have
have
any
first
first
round
round
picks.
picks to
Yeah.
give up. But some of these teams are eventually going to get first round picks that they're going to be able to give up, and the same people who gave up the first 4 are going to be willing to give up the next 2. So that's what I'm saying. Like, find those teams, find a team that's desperate. And I'm telling you, once it comes down to millions and millions and millions of dollars in luxury tax payments, these teams are going to get very desperate. And the Raptors are going to have this very nice, clean cap sheet, and they're going to be able to absorb these contracts. So a guy like a Zach LaVine, you know what I mean? Be like, hey, just give us your 2029 and 2031 first round pick unprotected, and you can have all this cap space back.
I think they should do that in tandem with tanking.
I'm not going to convince you to not tank.
Who
Never.
you gonna give up? Jakob, who else are you gonna give up? You're not gonna
You
give up.
package Jakob Pertl along with Bruce Brown to whatever team wants to catapult themselves to Sacramento, to Golden State, any of these teams kind of in the play-in fringe, right? LA Lakers, maybe not them, they have AD, but you someone who could use a true, like OKC. That's the perfect team. You give them Jakob Pertl and Bruce Brown, and now they're a legit title contender.
Why do you have
Right?
pop-up why do you have these thumbs up things popping on your face?
I have no idea. I have no
I
idea.
I thought you were the one doing it, Rob.
Yeah.
I wasn't. That's so
I
cool.
know.
What?
Are you using iPhone?
I don't know.
Are
But
you on
that's
your
so cool.
iPhone?
I've never seen that before.
I think Apple phones are I whatever does that sometimes.
Are you on an iPhone?
No, but it doesn't matter. We're not on. We're on StreamYard. That it would
It
have to
doesn't.
happen through Stream.
It does
Yeah.
that on Microsoft Teams. It does that on Zoom. All these
Okay.
Apple products. Yeah.
So you're on an Apple product. Is that it?
I am. Yeah.
You're on
Yeah,
multiple Apple products. You got the AirPods. You
Yes.
got the iPod. You got a MacBook.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
Got a
the Apple.
MacBook.
It's the Apple
Yeah.
products.
You're just
Yes,
showing
sir.
off, being a 1%er, man. You're just showing off, And meanwhile, I got my all my non-Mac products here. Actually, that's pure cap. I'm gonna hold on. This is gonna be a very, very stupid brag. I'm on a 2011 Mac. What?
Hey, man.
I'm changing the world through a 2011 Mac.
I still use my 2011 MacBook to DJ events. So it's
Wow.
yeah. They hold up.
Deke losing his mind here. Trade Pirtle for Luca. Who says no? What?
I'm pretty sure that's a joke.
I never know with these people, man. I don't know.
Pirtle and Bruce Brown in exchange for
Andrew Wiggins,
Kenneth
and
Lau saying 2011 Max serious. Yes, for real. And I didn't know how broke ass I was. I mean, I'm not broke, but I mean, like, I didn't know how broke ass what I was doing was until I saw my Mac listed on Facebook Marketplace. Guess how much?
$400.
$5.
Oh, damn.
It was $5.
It's a
I was
good
like,
deal.
oh, they're selling a Mac for $5, and it was like, yo, bro, it's my Mac. They're selling my Mac for $5. I was like, oh my god, that's crazy. That's
That's
crazy.
funny. Hey, man. One man's trash. Am I right?
I mean, it still works. I got no problems with it. It still works.
would you trade Jakob Bruce Brown to Golden State for Wiggins and Moses Moody and
Yes, sir.
first round pick?
Did you listen to him already bring that trade up? I think he brought up almost the exact same trade.
No, I just joined.
Yeah. No, I brought up that exact same trade.
Oh wow. Okay.
Right. It also gives you the leverage to say bye to Gary. Right now, you have a replacement in Moses Moody for him.
I don't think you need leverage to say bye-bye to Gary. You already drafted the leverage to say bye-bye to Gary last year.
Right.
Yeah, well,
100%.
you need a backup to the leverage.
All I'm saying is, I think they have the requisite talent to spring back hard from a 1-year tank.
They already tanked for a year. They just tanked this year, and they got nothing for it.
Yeah,
so that's what I'm trying to say. Like,
this year was an anomaly year because we still had Pascal. Figure out the OG thing. So last year was the pivot year. Yes, of course they leaned into the tank at the very end to try to get however much they could. But I think in order to give yourself the look, put it this way, you get Cooper Flag, you're back. You're back in business immediately.
If I have the pick, I think I prefer Ace Bailey to Cooper Flag.
But either one, either one of them, right? You're back in business immediately. Now you have like and not only that,
define
but you
business.
have one of those.
Define business.
It means you have
you're challenging for 45 wins immediately.
And you have 2 star players.
In what world? Together. Like, I'm sorry, man. I refuse to believe that you guys are not understanding that rookies usually don't help you win. None of these guys are going to be Victor Wembanyama.
It's possible they're not going to help you win the first year, right,
bro? Look at
you need talent.
Scotty is a complete anomaly. He is such a statistical anomaly. Let me flash this for you because I feel like people just really don't. These are the win shares. Here, hold on. I flashed this several times, but just look at this. So this was the win shares of where the fuck those are the odds. There we go. These are the win shares of first overall picks and also Scotty. Those are the win shares added in their first year, in their rookie year. Even Anthony Edwards, who you were seeing, did not add a single win to the Minnesota Timberwolves in his rookie season. Paolo added 2.4, Wemby added 3.7, LeBron added 5.1. Scotty added 6.6, and Shaq averaged 10 point. He added 10.4. The way you're talking about Cooper Flag is you think he's gonna fucking do what Shaq did, and he's not.
No, I don't think he's gonna do what Shaq did, but I think he will. He's as polished a player in high school as we've seen since LeBron. And I'm not gonna go as far as say he's LeBron.
Cooper?
Right? Yes, he's fucking polished,
no.
bro. Come on, look at how clean his game is. Look at his feel. It's so good on both ends. That's the thing.
He has massive physical advantages over the players he's going up against, dude. Did you watch Andrew Wiggins in high school? I'm not saying Andrew Wiggins was better than him, but did you watch him? Did you watch how unstoppable he was in high school? Did you see him in the NBA?
Played in high school in Canada.
No, he didn't.
No, he played it in North Carolina.
He played in the States.
Did he?
Yes, he did. Most Canadian players go down to the States.
Right.
I like Cooper Flag. I think he's a very interesting player. It scares me how people are talking about him, though, because I see a lot of holes in his game. And I'm not saying he can't shore them up. He's 18 years old, and he's made of the right stuff. There's only one prospect that I believe in my in my evaluation that I have seen over the next, over the last 5 years going into, the next 2-3 years, that I'm like, I would bet the farm that this player is going to be successful, and that's AJ DeBonsa. That's it.
Right.
I wouldn't have done it for Cade, obviously. Jalen Green, who was the number one player in his class. Can I tell you that? Jalen Green was considered the number one player in a generational class. If you asked an average person to look at 2021 with no benefit of foresight of what would happen and compare that class to next year's class, they would pick 2021 10 times out of 10. 2025 is good, but only because 2024 was so bad.
And I think with Cooper
Really?
Flag too, right?
Yes.
With college
It's a good
basketball,
draft.
right?
It's not nearly as hyped. Like right now, Cooper Flag is not getting the same, like he might be getting a bit of a boost because he's white. Can we be for real about it? Like there might be a little bit of that, right? A little bit. Because I have fully
for being white.
Huh?
Yeah, but I think
being white.
I think after college, right? Some of these players they start really well in college, but I don't think he might end up not being the number one draft pick. RJ Barrett was like a top player entering college, right? But he came out as number 3 pick because other players are going to emerge.
Yeah, man. I mean, just like, I think it's just a bird in the hand, the bird in the bush type of thing, where it's like we get a little too carried away sometimes with not appreciating what we have. You have 2 Gatorade Player of the Years. You have a McDonald's All-American. You have like a true, like high level prospect in Scotty Barnes, who was a top 4 pick in a considered generational draft. There's a reason at some point you do have to just say, we're going in on this guy. And I think this channel certainly did not build itself on, hey, Scotty's a great number 2. I believe he's a good number 1. And you might say that, hey, like with Cooper, it's going to be even better. And I agree with you. But I'm just saying, why are you putting your hand up like it's high school?
Because I want you to finish. I have got something on deck.
Okay. I get the concept of putting Cooper on this team, and I think he fits really well with what the Raptors need and what the Raptors want to do. But at absolute best, you tear apart your entire team, your entire season for at best a 15% chance to get him. At best.
Sorry.
That's 1 in 8, bro.
I will say this. If I'm talking not simply about Cooper Flag, right? So there are a few other guys that are elite.
Okay.
If you were to take Shea right now and take
Shea went where in the draft?
12 or 13.
Oh,
nope.
Like 11, 12, 13.
He was not top 5. Keep guessing.
10th, right? He was 10th?
It was 11th.
He was 11th.
Okay.
Yeah.
Which is exactly where you probably think the Raptors would finish if they tried their damn best. See my point?
I get it.
He's an MVP candidate. Look at your current MVP candidates and tell me where they were drafted.
Okay, but hold on. Let me finish my point. So he's an MVP candidate, and guess what? If you took J-Dub off that team, where do you think they would finish? Do you think they would be a 50-plus win team, finishing with the best record in the West? Like, no, they wouldn't. You have to have multiple. I still think that even if they get Cooper Flag, I still think Scotty's going to be the best player on the team. Right? The point is you've got to have 2 of those guys, and I don't think that between RJ, Quickly, and oh my God, our white shooter,
Grady
Dick. I don't think you have I don't think you have that next like fundamental piece. I think those guys are potential fantastic role players for sure. And if you have Scotty plus another hell of a player like Ace Bailey or Cooper Flag or one of these other guys, now you're cooking with grease immediately.
But you know that Jalen from OKC, right? His stats, he's 23. RJ is 23, right? His stats is comparable to RJ's stats since RJ joined the Raptors.
Right.
Sorry.
But he's better because he's a much better defender.
Can you
So the
repeat that?
stats don't tell the full story. Okay, I want to play a game, and it's called Guess the MVP. Okay, so let's just try this because I want to prove a point, and I'm going to prove it at your expense since you're so hammered about this tanking thing. These are the players, okay, that ranked in the top for MVP this year. These are the top 9 vote getters for the MVP this year. Let me make my screen a little bit smaller so that everyone can see a little bit clearer who I'm talking about. And I want you to tell me where they were drafted. Hold on. This is a little trivia for everybody. Okay. Number 1, Nikola Jokic.
Number 41.
Hang on. Let me make it bigger. That's better. There we go.
I zoomed in on my phone.
Okay, Nikola Jokic. What pick was he?
41.
Yeah, it's 40 something.
41. Where was Shea?
11th.
Luka.
3.
Giannis.
12.
Nope.
No, it wasn't 12. It was
13.
Nope.
It was 15, right?
15th. Jalen Brunson.
33 or 34?
33. Correct. Moving on. Jason Tatum.
3rd.
Yep.
13.
Anthony Edwards.
1.
DeMontis Sabonis.
11th, right? Is it 11th?
Maybe?
11th.
Was he 10th or 11th?
Yeah, it was 11th after Jacopordo. Then Milwaukee drafted that guy, the guy from Canada.
Correct.
And it was 11th.
Yeah. So 11th pick and Kevin Durant.
2.
Number 2. How many first overall picks do you see there?
1.
Just one.
Sorry, I don't think that's why I'm saying this whole time. You don't need.
Hold on. And you know who's missing off this list? Joel Embiid, who missed the criteria. You know where he was picked? 3rd.
3.
You know who else is missing off this list for whatever reason? Kawhi Leonard. You know where he was picked? 15th.
15th.
Paul George, he was missing off this list. Where was he picked?
11th.
11th. My point is, value is everywhere in the draft. Where was Donovan Mitchell picked? He's missing off this list too. He was 13th. Devin Booker, 13th. It's everywhere, bro. Everyone tries to fucking, time this. Pascal Siakam is a 5 times better player on his career than Jakob Poeltl. One was the 27th pick. One was the 9th pick. Can we please stop pretending that every single year that some fucking rookie is going to come in and be the second overall pick and lead us to a championship? It doesn't work that way.
But the counter to that is that in a good draft, right?
These were good drafts, bro. These were a lot of good drafts here. Markelle Fultz versus Jason versus Lonzo Ball was the debate of the century. Guess who ended up being better than both of them by a country mile on day 1? It didn't take Jason Tatum 5 years to get better than them. He was better than them on day 1.
Guys, in 5 years, I want you to take that list and compare Victor Wembanyama to all of those guys.
Okay, Wemby is a generational prospect. If there was a Wemby in next year's draft, I would still be saying the same thing because at best you would have a 15% chance of getting him. That's my point. My point?
My point is if you get top 5 in a loaded draft, you're doing more good than harm for your team.
It's easier to get talent, right, than in a loaded draft.
That's what it is. If you get in the year. In the LeBron year, if you get LeBron, D Wade, Carmelo, Bosh, you get those top guys. Okay, you're back in business immediately. If you have the surrounding talent to be able to accompany those guys.
So it's easier than finding diamond in the rough, right?
That's right. That's right.
We've got one more caller. Let me just bring him on. Jay Brightside, your mic is off, but you're free to unmute yourself whenever you want to talk.
Hey, Rob. I just changed my name a little bit, but it's same Jay. We've talked a bunch of times.
Yep.
Yeah. Calling over from the other side.
Always cool when people turn on their mic. It's always cool when people turn on their camera. It's always much better for the audience, I think. So W for you.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, I'm just having some fruits. That's why I didn't want to distract the live. I get what Vince is saying about how he's very pro tank for next year because it is a really exciting draft. Although I do think 2026 will be possibly better, but it's mostly because of the unknowns and the potential there. I actually was I was sleeping during the live because it was 3 a.m. for me, and I woke up. First thing I did was check out Pinsari to see what was the result. I had a feeling that we probably would lose it, and we did, and it's fine. But but I want to share the dream scenario that I had. So I actually dreamed about the draft lottery, which is kind of weird. I think that's an unhealthy amount of obsession for something that's completely out of my control. But I'm sure there's a
Did you
Freudian theory
dream
there.
eights? Was it 8 everywhere? Because I tell you,
I did not dream it. Yeah.
my biggest peeve with, like, I'm so pissed off that live got deleted and YouTube will not restore it.
I wanted to see it. I really wanted to see it.
Yeah,
Oh,
I mean,
that live got deleted
yeah, the first one got deleted.
because you did it several times and it was 8 almost every time.
Not
Was
only
it?
that, but also before the draft lottery, I asked everybody, I'm like, where do you think it's going to go? And people were guessing 7, 6, 2, whatever. And Tony,
It's not 5.
Croatian guy, he said 8, and I flashed it on, and I was like, this is what I think as well. I think we're going to get 8. Worst case, I think we're going to get 7, but we're losing this pick. Then, right as the top 4 picks were being announced on the television that was on the screen, I said number 4 is going to be San Antonio. Number 3 is going to be Houston, and it just kept popping up, and I was watching it live.
How did you guess Atlanta for first? They had like 3%, something like that, like almost no chance.
It just
I
felt like
think it was down. It was down to the four picks, right?
Out of the 4 teams. Okay.
Yeah, out of the 4 teams that were remaining, that's when I guessed correctly. So yeah, I think I had a real Rob Stradamus moment there, and YouTube unfortunately took it away from me. I'm very pissed off about that, but nevertheless, so yeah, tell me about what you dreamed about with the Raptors draft.
So I had a dream that we would get the second pick. And because for some reason, I want to control my expectations. I didn't think we could get the first, but I thought we might get the second pick and then trade down in the lottery to get a 8 to 12 range pick and then get a 2025 first rounder. That was like a dream scenario I had. Or the other one I thought I had when we, for some reason in my dream, we could do a redo button and then redraft.
You spent too much time on Tankathon. Too much time on Tankathon, bro.
Yeah,
Tankathon is not real life.
Yeah. Oh, Tankathon. This was just before I went to bed. I did 10 simulations, and 9 out of the 10, Raptors kept their pick, and 6 out of the 10, we moved up to the top 2. So for some reason, I jinxed it.
Wait,
I think
9 out of 10?
9 out of 10, we kept the draft. We kept the pick, which is statistically improbable. Like, I think there's like a 10% chance of that happening.
You said 9 out of 10, they kept their pick, and 6 out of 10, they lost their pick. That makes no sense.
No. 6 out of 10, we moved up to the top 2 pick.
Oh shit! Sorry. Okay, my bad. I misheard that. Okay, cool. That's great. Yeah.
So when we did the redo, we got the 6th pick and we got Stephen Castle, which I was excited about because I thought he could impact as either a 6th man or at least an 8th man in our rotation from day one because he seems to be more NBA ready than Alex Sarr or other first round picks. And then next year we would not next year, but that season we would finish 5th in the East and end up giving Spurs like a 17th or 18th.
I don't mean to cut you off on your dream. I did ask you about your dream, but let's move on past your dream because that's not what happened. And yeah, so now that what has happened, you said that you sort of agreed with Vince's idea of tanking. So I just want to understand why, and then we can just move on from this topic.
Sorry, I didn't say I agreed, but I understand where he's coming from.
Okay.
It seems it's just my qualm about it or hesitation about trying to go for a full-on tank is it's out of our control in the sense that even if we finish with a bottom 3 record, it doesn't guarantee us because of how the odds have flattened out so much. Prior to the flattening, I would be a lot more on board with full tanking for next year. But because of just like this lottery, Orlando won it with 3%. So I think it's more negative for the Raptors to go for a full tank than to try and go for try to see what they can do. Like ideally, they push hard for the first half of the season and see if they can get a top 5 record in the East, being as weak as the East is. And if they can't, if they're still like outside of the play-in record, then maybe at the trade deadline, do a fire sale, which they should have done the year before Fred was a free agent, and ship out Pirtle, ship out whatever free agents are expiring that could be an impact to contenders, and get back as much assets as we could for future reload. But if we don't try to maximize the roster's potential, especially with a full offseason with training camp for BBQ and with Rasha, then not Rasha, our coach. Sorry. Yeah, Rocco. Darko. My God. So then
Rocco Darko. That's amazing.
It got there eventually, but yeah, that's my opinion there. But I mean, it's the possibility of getting Cooper Flag. That is pretty incredible, especially because of how unselfish he plays. He would gel really well with Scotty, and that would be our twin tower kind of big man wing combo.
I actually think they have a lot in common, to be honest. And I think
yes, but is it so bad to have two Scotty Barnes on our team? I mean, then trade
for Denny of Dia, bro, and get a poor man's version of that. No, I think,
but not just Cooper, but I think the talent in next year's draft seems to be of higher caliber.
I think
even if we strike out.
The one counterpoint that I can make is that kind of everybody's sort of focusing on the fact that Atlanta moved up with a 3% chance, but of the 8 worst teams in the NBA, they got the top 6 picks. Not the top 6, 1 through 6, but like 6 of the top 8, right? In Washington, San Antonio, Detroit, Charlotte, Portland, and Toronto in the 8th spot. That went to San Antonio, and then Memphis came right after that, and they were the next worst team. Like it, the chances are that if you finish like bottom 8,
what are you talking about? Memphis moved down.
Yeah, Memphis.
Yeah, I was going to say only 2 teams moved down: Memphis and Raptors, if I'm correct. Everyone else stayed within roughly their range.
No, you're definitely wrong. Everybody moved down. What are you talking about? When someone moves up so much, everybody moved down. What are we talking about here?
Sorry,
what?
I'm just saying
the teams between 1 to 6 stayed within 1 to 6, with the exception of Atlanta jumping and Raptors and Memphis moving out of the.
Yeah, but why is 6 the arbitrary line? Everybody moved down is what I'm saying. Like Detroit moved from 1 to 5.
Yeah.
That is the most significant drop off. Like if you want to feel bad for Raptor fans, I would just say this.
Feel worse for Detroit fans.
Detroit moving from 1 to 5 after the season they just had is the most significant drop off. Now,
but look,
if there is a Detroit fan that is listening, I will tell you this: probably doesn't matter. You were going to fuck that up in the first pick. Probably less of a chance to fuck it up as the 5th pick, in my opinion. Because first pick, they were almost certainly going to pick Alex Sarr. In fact, I'm pretty sure that 80% of teams, if they'd gotten the first pick, would have picked Alex Sarr. I think you might be dodging a bullet.
We could have gotten Durant from them, possibly, if they're really high on Sarr, right?
No,
they need to get rid of some Durant. They've got 5 picks.
I feel like this draft, there are I think Topic and Reed Shepherd. I think those are the 2 that are going to make their marks the most. That's just whatever. Just me watching highlights and whatever.
The first season?
No. I like as a career. I think Topic and Reed Shepherd are going to be the 2 best players in the draft.
In this draft class, which player do you think has the highest chance to be the first in the draft class to be an All-Star?
Zachary Ricochet and Topic. And then beyond that,
I think it depends on who gets drafted in the East, honestly, because the West is so loaded that it may be tougher for them.
That's a really, really, really good point.
Yeah. For sure.
Nice one saying fire T-shirt, Vince. Got an American flag on your T-shirt, man. What is it? Who is that?
It's
is it Outcast?
Yeah, Andre 3000, big boy.
That's super cool. Yeah, nice.
Stankonia. Any Stankonia fans?
For me, I think it might be Rob Dillingham. And even though I don't want Raptors to have him, I just think he has the
you have no chance to get him now. Your dream is over.
Yeah, it's okay. I didn't want him anyway. I just meant that I think he has a very high chance of becoming an all-star in this draft class, just because of the NBA, even though they've changed the rules a little bit on the officiating to be more allowing better, more contact on defense, it's still an offensively driven sport. The threes, the high scoring, the triple doubles every day. So Rob Dillingham fits into that narrative of explosive guard. He flashes a lot of I guess Allen Iverson, possibly, but or just a dynamic guard that's just silky smooth, already has a bag.
Are you watching Cleveland in the playoffs? It's really, really hard for small guys in the NBA these days. Really, really hard.
It's true. Look at Scoot. With all that athleticism, he
Al,
really struggled out of the gate. But,
first of all, Scoot is not a small guard. He is a 6'3", incredible athlete guard.
Yeah.
Rob Dillingham will be lucky to measure 6 foot even. He is a very small guard.
Also, Scoot's book has not been written yet. I think
no, it's true. It's just
Rookie
a tough
season
start.
was
says the guy who
throwaway.
picked him where in our all-time draft.
Shut up,
I
Rob.
remember that.
man.
I remember that draft. Outside of the top
Oh.
6, I think.
Vince is like Vince is scooter high water right now. You know, it's like that's it. You know, Vince is so invested in Scoot being good. Look, I'm invested in Scoot being good too. I really like him. I'm not going to walk away from the fact that I definitively said that he was going to be better than Brandon Miller. That basically anyone who picks Brandon Miller over him is going to get fired. Blah 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 blah. And then boom, someone picked Brandon Miller over him, and so far Brandon Miller's looked much better. And I don't think that it's going to
He
change.
exceeded expectations for sure.
FYI, I picked
you guys
Brandon Miller in our draft together.
Where did you pick him? Like 8th, 9th, something like that?
Yeah, probably around there.
Yeah, you only got him because I was so low on him.
I got him number 2.
Okay.
No. What Vince
was
and I
high,
did
but-
was we put all the young players on, I think it was like the last 4 drafts or something. We put them all, or 3 drafts.
20,
And we put them
Gotcha.
all into the same draft, including Wemby, Scotty, all those guys. 2021, 2022,
Wemby
2023.
went
And
1. Scotty went 2, right?
Wemby went. Wemby went to me, right? Or did he go to you?
1, for sure. 1.
No, you got him at 1.
Okay,
Yeah.
you took Scoot at 2, which I lost my fucking
Over
mind.
Barnes? Over Barnes?
You took yeah. And then I took Scotty at 3. So I got Scotty and Wemby in my fantasy draft, and you had Scoot Henderson at that moment. So like, I mean, imagine the gravity of difference between those. And who was your 4th pick?
We'll pick Anthony Edwards.
Huh?
No,
Anthony Edwards.
Mobley?
Yeah.
Oh my God, bro!
Oh,
can you
wow.
imagine? Can you imagine our
Scoot
teams
Mobley?
meet? You have Mobley, who can barely catch a
That's why
basketball
we're
right
not-
now,
Hey, come on.
and Scoot Henderson. Mobley's great,
still gonna be good. He's still a good player.
But bro, like really right now, the comparison between our 2 teams at the very top is Scoot versus Scotty, which is not a competition right now, and Mobley versus Wemby, which is also not a competition.
Okay,
Blew your ass
well,
out of the water with that one.
You also did give yourself the first choice overall, and obviously, if I got first pick overall, I would have Wemby. So,
You choose
But you still would have ended up with Scoot because I would have picked Scotty number 2.
Third would have been Scoot. And
And
then
then at which point you would have had Scoot and Wemby, and I would have had Scotty and Mobley. In which case, I still think I'm close. I'm closer than you were.
You would have taken Mobley next.
Well, this is my point. You can't fuck up at the top of the draft.
That's right.
You can't fuck up this much at the top of the draft, Vince. You gotta learn. You gotta learn.
And this
You gotta learn the hard
give
lesson.
yourself the best chance at the top of the draft, my friend.
No, this is why you invest in organizational development.
Listen, I hear what you guys are saying. 100%, I hear what you guys are saying. And my only argument is to stay hovering in the low quadrant to give yourself a chance. Right? You give yourself a chance.
Essentially, just outside of the play-in.
I don't think. Look, I think if they have 0 injury, or the best injury luck insofar as they don't have any injuries next year, right? I think they still cap out at like a 35 win team, right?
No,
really.
So much of that depends on other teams around you, whether they decide to tank. There's such a stronger incentive to tank this year for the teams around us that you could see a lot of teams. Look, man, I think, here's the positive. We have 4 picks coming up over the next 3 drafts. 4 first-round picks over the next 3 drafts, okay? Plus, we have 1 first-round pick in this year's draft. Plus, we have a really high-end, second-round pick, which is like a first pick. That's 6 young players over 3 years, is it not? Am I doing the math incorrectly on that? 19th pick, 31st pick, your own pick next year, your own pick the year after, plus Indiana's pick the year after.
That's 5, but close enough.
Hold on.
Did I do it wrong? We have 2 this year, if you count the second rounder, and then our pick next year, our pick the year after.
I think we have a second rounder somewhere in there as well. So there's so let's just say 5 picks over the next 3 years that are adjacent to first round picks or equivalent to first round picks, including.
And we can still get more draft
Yeah.
assets.
And I mean,
Especially if you
again, with
utilize
our
the
with
space they
our
have.
track record, drafting, later, especially with international prospects, with the expansion of international teams. So here's a question: if there's one team that is disproportionately going to benefit from the rise of an increasing rise of African prospects in the NBA draft, who's it going to be? It's going to be the Raptors. It's going to be the
Sure.
Raptors, And so you have all these young players, and look, man, like Masai identified Giannis in a way that I don't think most GMs did. He wanted him. He wanted him bad. He tried to trade at 11 to get him. He tried to trade up to 12 to get him. Tried to trade up to 13 to get him. No one was biting. Masai tried to get Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. He was willing to trade anything to get the guy. Just couldn't get the deal done. So I understand the value of keeping your draft picks and tanking and all that stuff, especially when you have a general manager who's really, really good and a president who's really good at scouting. But please understand, like, we picked OG at 23 OG, right? Norm second
Siakam.
round, Siakam 27th, all these guys in the 20s, all these picks,
Koloko.
the next 5, Koloko 33rd didn't work out, health, but man, he was good.
Fingers crossed he can come back.
He could
We
come
really
back.
need him.
So, and I mean, like, Grady will probably be solid too. So I'm just saying, like, it's the tried and true old spiel of the Raptors know what they're doing in the draft, but I feel comfortable that over the next 3 years, this year included, but next year and the year after, in 2 pretty loaded drafts, that will have some cracks at this. And I don't see us picking outside of the top 20 with any of those picks. Like, unless the Raptors are really, really good, they're going to be picking in the teens, or they're going to be picking in, the single digits. So somewhere between 5 and 17 is pretty much where those Raptor picks are going to be the next 2 years. Plus, you have the Indiana pick that's probably, unless something really miraculous happens for Indiana, which it might, Jarris Walker could be the real deal. Benedict Mathurin could take another step. Tyrese Halliburton could catch his form. And maybe the Indiana Pacers, by the time 2026 rolls around, they're a 60-win team. I don't know. I don't know that that's not going to happen. I don't know that is going to happen. But what I'm saying is you're going to have multiple cracks at this, and you have an excellent development staff, and you have a star in Scotty Barnes, and now you're just building around him. The OKC Thunder got Jalen Williams at the 12th pick. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander at the 11th pick. Shai was the 2nd overall pick. It's all over. But they got Lou Dort. Wasn't Lou Dort undrafted? I'm pretty sure he was. Wasn't Isaiah Joe a pickup, like a two-way guy? Look at how they constructed that team.
You also have to think that there are a couple ways of doing it. Is if you give yourself multiple kicks at the can, you have multiple picks in every draft. That's one way to do it. If you just have the one, right? You got to try to maximize your output with that. That's sure. My point. Is that like it now? Don't get me wrong. If they're able to trade for a bunch more, or like a bunch more, maybe 1 or 2 more draft picks next year, they can turn. I don't know. I don't know. I assume you're against trading
They
Pirtle.
Can package
now that we
for
have
a pick. Bruce Brown for a pick.
I don't think you're going to pick for Pirtle unless it's a really bad pick, personally.
Or you take a
contract. His asset value is very different. The Spurs were paying him $10 million a year on an expiring. You're paying him $20 million, and he's older now.
Would Hardenstein be better at $22 million than Jakob at 20?
Easily.
Yeah,
easily.
That's too bad. Could have had a chance to trade for him. Yeah.
And
Eubanks is also resigning with Phoenix because they have no choice. They can't get anybody.
It's too bad that Phoenix doesn't have any draft picks because because Pirtle on that team would have been like an insane upgrade over Nurkic.
You think so?
Yeah, Nurkic is brutal, dude. Nurkic, I'm convinced that Nurkic is the reason that team did as shit as they did throughout the season and as poorly as they did in the postseason.
I think it's more they didn't have a playmaker. Like, Nurkic was a factor, but they didn't have a true playmaker at all.
Not having a point guard for sure definitely didn't do them any favors. But
Nurkic didn't help for sure.
I had an interest in that team because I'm a big KD fan. Plus, I had a bunch of guys in different fantasy pools, so I watched a bunch of Phoenix. And
it's my job to basically challenge takes and narratives. Here's your narrative take. Here's the statistical difference between
I
Yusuf
had a
Nurkic.
feeling Rob was going to bring this up.
Yep,
They're probably quite similar, even
they're
though the eye test shows that Pirtle is a
ridiculous.
way better playmaker and
Yeah,
facilitator.
I think his numbers are inflated.
How?
Which one, Pirtle's or Nurkic's?
No,
Bro,
Nurkic's.
hold on.
Because he's
Yusuf,
playing with three with
Hank,
with two superstars and one other very good player.
So his assists should be higher then, is what you're saying.
Yes.
his assist
Higher than
percentage
Pirtle?
is higher, but dude, like, what are we talking about? Yusuf Nurkic has been a pretty damn good player. Like, I'm not a fan of his, but you're acting like last year was was a
switchable.
statistical anomaly because he's playing there. Let's see how much his last year deviated from his typical season, and I'm telling you, it didn't deviate that much. His
No, I
best
think he's
season,
always
his
trash.
best seasons. What? No, man. Fuck. Come on. Like, stop. Like,
Are we looking at the
like
per
you're
100?
you're too smart to have dumb takes like this. Okay. At the age of
Listen.
20, at the age of 24, 18, 19 in Portland, he played 72 games. He had a 3.7 boxes minus and a 2.8 value replacement. You're talking about him like he's fucking trash, and he's not. Okay. He's not that much older than Jakob Pertl. He's like a year older than Jakob. I think he might even be the same age. He is way better
He's a
shooter.
year older.
Granted, he's not a great shooter. He is a really good rebounder for, like what are we talking about here? Like,
He's a good rebounder, and I think that's where the buck stops. He's not a good shooter. He's
He had
not
higher
a shooter.
BPM.
if he
Right.
like, bro, he's not a good shooter, and you're defending Jakob Pertl.
No, I'm
For real?
it's all
He's a non-shooter.
So at least Yak knows where his bread is buttered. I think he just plays
At
his
least Yak
role
knows
a
not to
lot
shoot.
better. Right? He plays his role a lot better. I think he's a smarter defender. I think he is a more solid playmaker.
Nurkic is a
I think
solid
he's-
starter. He's a solid center.
I think Nurkic, I watched him a whole bunch this year, and he would make the.
You did.
I did.
Okay,
A
per
whole
100
bunch.
possessions. Forget what you watch. I just want to tell you the numbers, okay? One player averaged per 100 possessions, so I'm scaling out pace out of this. One player averaged 20 points and 20 rebounds and 7 assists with 1.9 steals and 1.9 blocks. The other one, in the same 100 possessions, averaged 20, 15, and 5. And you're telling me that the one who averaged less on the worst
16
team is
and 5.
decidedly better? What are we talking about here? Now, I'm not saying I'd rather have Yusuf Nurkic because I can't stand that guy. But personally, he's not a worse player than Jakob Pertl, bro.
I think you put Jakob Pertl on that team last year, and
Mhm.
that I think that team overall performs a hell of a lot better than they did.
Sure, but that doesn't mean he's a better player. It just means he fits better on the Phoenix Suns.
The
The way
Pertl
you're
makes
talking about
less
him, he's
mistakes.
better, and he's not. He's a better fit on the average team because he's a role player who plays his part. But he does not
That's
impact
right.
spacing
I
the way
agree.
Nurkic does. And despite your protests, I don't think he's a better passer than Yusuf Nurkic. Yusuf Nurkic is a much more skilled offensive player, bro. Come on.
Okay. Listen, we'll agree to disagree on this. Okay.
I think if Phoenix
Nurkic
Suns had a
makes-
true playmaker,
Nurkic
You
makes the
specifically
same
said
pass
that he-
over
that
and
he-
over again. Nurkic
Dude,
makes the same
Yusuf
pass over
Nurkic
and
used
over
to
again.
start over Nikola Jokic. It didn't
yeah,
happen. It didn't.
I'm
It didn't
aware.
last for long. But
I am aware. Once Nurkic lost a whole bunch of weight and he came out, I actually loved him. The Bosnian Beast, I would call him. I thought he was great. And then the more and more I watched that guy, it's just like the same boneheaded plays he made all the time. He's
Dude, he had
for
you're
a guy
at-
who's that big and
Mm.
his inability to finish at the basket is like staggering. Right? And so and that's where his, I think, biggest discrepancy lies versus Pirtle, is that when Pirtle's next to the basket, he hits that in. Right?
No,
Like he at the very
Part of
least can
the-
finish at a high rate.
Part of the struggle is
I
coming
mean,
around
Pirtle's
the basket.
efficiency was better. Also, Pirtle barely turned over the ball. Like he's more careful with the ball. I
Right.
feel like he's a slightly higher IQ player than Nurkic, but Nurkic is a very solid NBA starter. Like he's above average, I would say, as a center. They just lacked a floor general. They lacked someone that can facilitate, set people up for easy shots. Like both KD, Beal, and Booker all had, they all had difficult shots. They just can get them in most of the time, but they didn't have it easy. They had to play high effort offense, and that's because they were lacking a true.
I watched a lot of Portland Trailblazers. I can tell you vehemently, like he very confidently, he is a much better he's a more dynamic playmaker than what you're giving him credit for.
What was
And
his versus league average finishing at the rim? What was that?
It was average to above average.
Well,
It was 56%.
sorry, he was league average at finishing at the rim?
Yeah.
I thought he was below league average by
the eye test doesn't look good.
not
If
an
he turns it over a
insignificant
lot.
amount.
He was 274 for 492, which is good for 56.3%. League average is 59%. So he's a slightly below league average.
So as a 7'1" center, finishing 3 to 4 percentage points less than league average at the rim, and most of what he's getting is dunks off of what Booker and KD create for him. I don't know, man. That's pretty brutal to me. But sorry, I'm also saying it as somebody who was rooting for the Phoenix Suns, and so anything that he did wrong was overly emphasized in my eyes. Right?
Yeah,
and
fair
so
enough. For
But
the
that's
eye
such a
test,
but that's such a casual thing, you know, because like you're wiping, you're doing that thing where like it's always the role player's fault. No, man. Like there's a lot that goes into it. Look, I used to get frustrated with Yusuf Nurkic because I used to watch Portland, and you know it drove me crazy because I was a fan of Dame, and I would watch like Anthony Simons and Yusuf Nurkic just not being able to defend anything, and it just drove me crazy because I was like, man, if you put some defenders around Dame, they'd be better. Right? I've never been a fan of Yusuf Nurkic, but I do have to defend the slander when the slander is unwarranted. You acting like Yusuf Nurkic and Jakob Poeltl are on different planes as players, to me, is crazy. They're not on different planes as players. They're different styles of player.
Totally.
Certain teams require shooting and offense. You know what? The Raptors could use a little fucking shooting and offense from their center position, you know? And this guy shoots 31% from above the break, whereas, you know, teams may not defend him super well. He is a more talented playmaker. Therefore, he's going to have a few more turnovers. It's not like he's the most turnover-prone player. He's a 19% turnover rate, which matches a 20% assist rate. Jakob Poeltl is 14 and 14. You notice the proportionality between assist percentage and turnover percentage is identical between these two players. One has a higher load of possessions in which they're asked to play make, and the other one is just a screen and roller. I think the Raptors with Yusuf Nurkic are probably like worse because he's so bad at defending at the rim, but offensively they are significantly better with Yusuf Nurkic. What are we talking about? Him shooting a little worse at the rim is not
okay.
What?
He has a better bag for offensive finishing.
He's just more
spacing.
like he's more dynamic. Like you have to guard him in different places. He's crafty. Like he has some like actual craft. Jakob Poeltl is a very straight down, simple type of offensive package where it's very screen, roll, floater range. That's it.
He does his role really well. Two quick things about Phoenix since we're on the topic. One is about their new coach hire, Budenholzer. How do you think he's going to impact their record and or performance for next season? And two, any chances we can rehash the KD to Toronto trade if Phoenix is up for it, which I highly doubt, but what do you think?
Budenholzer makes them 5 wins better at best.
Okay.
And
he's a very offensive-minded coach. No chance of getting KD back.
No chance of getting KD.
Because we don't have the assets that they would need. They want like a star player.
The assets have fallen. So, I mean, and honestly, at this point, there's a sunk cost fallacy when it comes to what they gave up to get him. And when you give up a lot to get a 34-year-old, you're kind of stuck with them because to some extent, that asset is on a massive decline. So imagine if you bought Netflix.
Just like Dame?
I don't know. Like, no, just imagine you bought Netflix and, you know, it was sitting at 500 a share and then it started to free fall and you bought it at 400 a share. And you bought a whole bunch at 380 a share, and your average, buy value was like 382. At 350, you're like, I can't sell. I'd be losing money at this point. And at 320, you probably aren't selling either because you're like, no, it's going to come back. You might even buy a little bit more. It's usually around 250 that your panic button starts to hit, and you start thinking, oh my God, is this fucking going to zero? At which point, you would sell. But the threat of it going to zero is never really there with Kevin Durant, and so I think they're just kind of like, okay, we gave up so much to get him. Our fan base doesn't really care too much about him, to be honest. Like, it's not like the Phoenix fan base is like all in on Kevin Durant. I don't think people really give a shit. It's a nice hypey thing that he's there. Matt Ishbia wants to make a big splash. May I just say, every new owner in the NBA always makes a disastrous move within their first year. It almost always happens that way. It's kind of funny. And the Minnesota Timberwolves are the one team where that disaster move actually worked out in the long run, which is hilarious. But yeah, like, I mean,
is there any new upcoming teams that are looking to sell, get a new owner we can maybe fleece or take advantage of that situation?
I'm
Especially
sure
if RJ's stock goes up or quickly does.
I don't think we have the type of stars that typically get overpaid for. Like, look who the type of stars that, they pay for guys who are past their prime. Look at the guys who actually got traded for in most of these deals. Who were they? Rudy Gobert, a lot of cachet there, right?
Bradley Beal.
Kevin Durant, a lot of cachet. Bradley Beal, a lot of cachet.
Damian Lillard.
Who else? Damian Lillard, a lot of cachet, albeit not the same situation. Kevin Garnett and Paul Pierce in their twilight, a lot of cachet. So when you have players, and this is where I think, maybe
James
the Raptors
Harden, a lot.
Yeah, James Harden, Kyrie Irving, there's a lot of, and this is maybe like the underrated part of getting these like very notorious, very high level type of players on the, on the cheap, is sometimes you are able to rehab their value to a level that, exceeds what you paid for it. And when I look at a guy like, I don't know, like you look at, when the Raptors won the championship, everyone got a little bit of a shine for that, right? There's a large part of like the NBA world that thinks more of Pascal Siakam because of that championship. Even though it was 5 years ago and objectively he's a completely different player today, they still ascribe some level of value to him. I guarantee you there's at least like a 5% boost on his value to this day because of that championship. Fred VanVleet, same thing. At least a 10% boost to his overall value as a player, because Fred VanVleet without that championship is not talked about the way that he's talked about. So
what's extra crazy about Fred is that he sucked for the Orlando series, the Philly series, and some of the Milwaukee series.
Yeah, I agree.
It's just crazy to think about. Like, it was really 1.5 series that made that guy's career and this cachet you're talking about.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that, overall, this is like, I realize this entire conversation started out about Nikola Jokic being great and now has completely descended into a conversation about whether to tank or not. But you know what's hilarious? Jokic was picked in the 40s. It's a good reason not to tank. I think that's a good way to sort of tie this conversation up into a nice little bow. I'm getting kind of tired. It's 1:30 in the morning. Leave it up to all of you guys for a final thought.
When is your next live to discuss draft strategies?
I don't know.
I wanted to pick your brain about the 19th and 31st pick. Tomorrow, probably?
I don't think it's going to be tomorrow. No.
Okay. Take a little break from it. Yeah, it was a great chat. I really enjoy the ideas about exploring between tank, no tank, and a lot of our fans are probably bummed that we lost a pick because, again, I think you alluded to loss aversion or loss costs, sunk cost fallacy. Like we suffered through a 15 game losing streak, and we got, it seems like, nothing out of it, but it could be a silver lining because with that extra cap space of potentially another 10 million or so, we might be able to do something with that. And there's about 10 teams that are over the tax or almost over the tax. Maybe we can help them out with their situation and get some draft capital for next draft or the 2026. So you never know. That could that could help. Yeah.
Yeah.
Do what you gotta do.
FA, any final words, man?
Yeah, I think I'm glad that all the conveying or keeping the pick stock is over. So like MJ said, let's focus on the 19th and the 31st and move on from there.
Cool. Yep.
That's right. I agree with everything that was said. Try to trade for as many picks as you can get. And
you never know, Vince. We might get Cooper.
Maybe. Or
maybe.
What are the chances that the Indiana Pacers
bottom out in 26?
They bottom out. What is it? Well, no. Okay, Pascal's
they
definitely re-signing there. But let's say that they kind of bottom out. Something happens. They get a bad injury, or they just don't develop. Ben Math never comes around fully. They don't develop, and all of a sudden we're looking at a pretty sweet pick in 2026. That might be okay.
Yeah,
a guy can dream.
Cool. All right, guys. I'm gonna turn this live back into what it was originally supposed to be about, which was Nikola Jokic and the Denver Nuggets evening up this series. Thanks a lot for coming in and talking
Okay,
draft
catch you guys
and
later.
Tanking philosophy and stuff. All right, talk to you guys later. Peace.
See you, boys.
See ya. All right, let's get to this. Just gonna download Anthony Edwards' post-game presser, and we're going right back to we were initially talking about. And then I got to head off to bed soon because I got to be up at 8 o'clock tomorrow morning. Get ready for the Player's Choice, my appearance on the panel. That's going to be cool. All right. Then, and just for anybody, that's Player's Choice, YouTube channel, 11 a.m. Be there. Okay. All right. Anthony Edwards.
Hey, and what are you seeing defensively right now that has made it harder for you guys to string stops together against them?
They make tough shots going into that third. I think the second quarter hurt us at the end of the second quarter. It started off with me a stupid turnover, but I think we gave ourselves plenty of chances to win that game tonight. We just
versus game 3.
No difference. I was just aggressive tonight. Yeah, in game 3, I only took like 14 shots. Yeah, which is not myself.
And it's a 3-game series. Like, how do you kind of avoid the ebbs and flows? Flying high after 2-0 and then dropping 2 here. Like, how do you keep an even keel and go into it knowing that you're 2 wins away?
I don't know. Yeah, that's a good question. I don't know. When the last time it was 2-2, I think it was Memphis series, and that didn't go well for us. So I think we gotta do something different that we did last time.
And did you notice something defensively with them that enabled you, no matter who was on you, that you could get to the basket, you could get your shots off? Was it something that you saw maybe in film in the first 3 games that you capitalized on tonight?
No, I think I was just aggressive, man. Yeah, I think that was the main thing. I didn't let it stop me.
How do you – Carl was struggling early. I think he missed like his first 7 or 8 shots. As a teammate, do you encourage him? Do you want him to keep being aggressive? Do you want to let the sort of game come to him? How do you sort of encourage him through that?
I mean, he's a superstar. He get paid to put the ball in the rim, so I always tell him, don't you ever stop shooting the ball because you miss 5 or 6 shots. I don't give a damn. We need to, in order for us to win, we need you to score. And I'm just happy he was aggressive the entire night. That's a win for us tonight, him being aggressive throughout, having an off night, I guess.
The last thing, you were guarding Jamal, you were guarding Jokic. There was a point in the fourth quarter, I think it was 9 minutes left. Mm-hmm. You just looked tired. You called for a timeout. Like, how do you conserve your energy while still playing with energy when you're out there for 40-plus minutes?
I got to figure it out. I'm young, so, I guess I can look tired and still be effective out there. But, yeah, I definitely was a little tired, a little gassed. but I'll be all right.
You guys had the series, up to, and then you had a few days to kind of try to be patient and, get back to playing. And now Denver has the momentum of the series, winning 2 in a row. What's the difference, having to turn around and play right away back in Denver and Tuesday?
I like it. I think the 3 days hurt us, actually. Yeah, I think having after those 2 wins, they gave us like 3 days off or 3 days before we play again, and I don't really like that at all. But I think that's why we came out sluggish game 3. But I don't think they got any momentum. I mean, they won. We won 2 games. They won 2 games. At this point, it's just whoever win 2 games. So I don't know how people look at it, but I look at it like I'm happy. I'm ready. We're competing at the highest level, and I'm smiling about it because I'm happy. I'm ready to go play. If we play tomorrow, I'll be ready. So it's gonna be fun.
Thanks, Ed. Thank you.
We kind of took control of it's easier to play when you up a little bit than like last couple games we were down 15-20 every game, so it's kind of easier when it's at least tied when we are not down.
A couple guys felt like it was going in. Did you think it was good in the air?
I was sure. I just wanted to go to the locker room just to rest a little bit, so I didn't even. I think I didn't even celebrate with him. I was just walking through the.
Coach Malone came in here and he said, first of all, I gotta say Happy Mother's Day to my mom and the mother of my children. I think you blew a kiss to somebody toward the.
That was my brothers. My brothers are there, so we don't celebrate that. I mean, we have it, but I mean
it's in December.
Yeah, I mean it's so.
But that's to your brother.
Thank you.
Not to your.
I mean, I'm grateful for my mothers and mother of my child. So it's not that I don't want to celebrate, but we just don't have that as a.
Nikola, could you feel after these 2 wins that you guys have regained momentum? Because Coach said you'll need to capitalize on it and ride it out.
Yes and no. I mean, we know that we didn't do nothing. We just won 2 games. We know that now game number 5 is going to be the hardest game of our lives, and that's how we're going to prepare ourselves. You know, it's really, really. Even before this series started, I thought it's going to be a really interesting series, just because both teams can win and both teams can have a huge runs and both teams and players have a big game. So you know, I think it's a really interesting series.
Nikola, the bench has been so big for you guys in this series. Just what has it meant to have those guys be able to come into this game and be able to affect it in the way that they did?
Yes. I mean, Christian was really good, of course. Justin made a couple of shots. Verge was really good. He took a charge and then he made a 3. So you know, they accept the role and they're doing it. They are doing it on a high level. You know, and they don't. Those are the guys that probably sacrifice the most, and they're doing all the dirty, small things that nobody notices.
Nikola, did Game 2 wake you guys up?
I don't know. You know, maybe they were just more physical. We were kind of fighting. We didn't know what we were doing, basically. You know, we were just. They speed us up, and we didn't play our game. And you know, I think the last 2 games we find our rhythm back.
You guys always, especially you always talk about all the things Aaron Gordon does. But tonight, I mean, defensively, offensively, bringing the ball up the court, tonight was almost like the perfect kind of captured game of everything he does.
Yes, I mean, it was basically, I mean, he was our best player tonight, you know. He was doing everything, like you said, and, you know, he doesn't take credit, but he's a really big factor of us winning championship last year and playing this good this year, so... of course, like I said, some nights he's going to score a lot, some nights he's not going to score at all, and he's good with that. So that's why he's really good at his job.
Nikola, you heard him answer the question about being selfless. Like, what were you thinking when he credited you for the reason that he's able to be selfless on the floor?
Yeah, I bail him out because I show up, so he can say that.
The fact that you can inspire other players, your teammates, to play a certain brand of basketball, though.
I think it's cool. I think because it's contagious, then everybody wants to do that, and I think that's the best way of playing basketball. And for the fans, for the people who likes to watch basketball, I think that's the best possible basketball ever. Hey, pleasure like always, guys.
Okay, I got to get Aaron Gordon's 7-minute press conference as well as the final bit because I think it was really good and I would like to hear it. I have nothing but respect for this entire team, this organization, and everything that they stand for and what they represent for basketball in terms of the style of basketball they play. If I had children, I would tell them to watch the Denver Nuggets play basketball. If I had, a child who remarkably, ended up becoming much, much taller than his dad and played center, I would tell him to watch Nikola Jokic. Here's Aaron Gordon's. Oh, there we go. It's going to be a little low res. Sorry, guys.
Hey, Aaron. After after tonight, you're 8 of 12 from 3 in this series. Did you come into this series knowing that your three-point shot would be important, specifically against the way they play defense?
Yeah, just looking to space the floor a little bit. I work on it every day, so eventually it's going to drop. But, yeah, I'm looking to space the floor.
And forgive the random question, but Michael Malone referenced a hazy IPA when he was calling you the MVP of the game. Do you have a preferred style of beer?
Oh, IPA? No, I'm not an IPA guy. I'm more of a Modelo kind of guy.
Aaron, Monday after Game 2, you said we need to go get one game Friday, and that'll give us momentum. Then I asked you in passing in the locker room, I said, did you get that momentum back? And you said, yeah, I think so. So now, after this performance in these 2 games, can you feel that momentum shifting back in your favor?
Well, we got home court advantage back, so now we got to just do it on our home floor. I love how our group responded. With our backs against the wall, we put ourselves in a good position. Now we need to take advantage of it.
What is exactly your like jump shooting routine on a daily basis, if you don't mind me asking? By the end of this game, they were closing a lot harder to you in the corner than they had been before.
I shoot a ton. I shoot a lot, and I mean it's a culmination of a lot of work. I've been playing this game for a long time, so yeah. I mean I just shoot free throws every day. That's the non-negotiable. Everything else, depends on how my body's feeling.
For you, what goes into guarding Ant when you're in those situations? I mean, you guys were moving guys in and out of that matchup and trying different things. What are the keys for you?
Well, it's tough cover. I guess just trying to keep him on his toes, make him think, make him go to a second move or a third move. He's a hell of a ball player, so you got to do whatever you can to try and stop him, and yeah, just make him think about what he's trying to get to.
During the LA series, I know I asked you about the burden or the challenge of being the defending champs. Did the attitude change once you got down in that 2-0 hole? I mean, you've gotten everybody's best shot all along, but you hadn't been in that spot. You never were in that spot a year ago.
I mean, I love when people count us out. Simple as that. A lot of these guys on this team have been counted out before in their career, or been the underdogs or the dark horse in their career before. So they've operated from that space before of having their backs against the wall or being counted out. So I don't think it was anything new to the individuals. It was new to our collective, but I like the challenge, and I'm glad we accepted it and put ourselves in a good position with home court.
Aaron, what was it like to see you guys score 8 points in the final 20 seconds of that first half, and what did it do for you guys going into half?
Yeah, that was sick. I mean, that was crazy, man. Jamal Murray, three-quarter court three. So sick. It's just, you make something like that, and it's like, okay, at least we know our point guard's hot.
And Michael had said before you guys left Denver, I want everybody getting on that plane to believe that we can win and come back. But what did you guys find here in Minnesota, or maybe even rediscovered?
Yeah, I mean, the belief was a huge part of it. That's kind of what I was talking to our guys, being an extension of Michael Malone. I was talking to our guys on the court about just believing, even if nobody else believes in us, that I believe in us and that we believe in each other. What we found, I don't know, we just got to play our brand of basketball with a sense of urgency, and a sense of discipline, and just like a laser sharp focus and just like a surgical execution, strong execution, and we'll be fine.
Ant gets his, he ends up with 44, but is it a testament to Nuggets basketball that when Nikola was in foul trouble or Jamal was in foul trouble, you guys have other guys that can keep punching, that one guy can't beat this team?
Yeah, and also one more thing on that last question, excuse me. We just got to be better. We got to continue to be better and continue to improve. We don't want to stay stagnant. They say if you're not getting better, you're getting worse. Yeah, and back to your question. I mean, Reg, Justin, and CB, man, they stepped up huge for us. I think everybody that played contributed to this game, and it was a collective, a full team effort, and that's what we're gonna need.
Last year, the one home game that you guys lost in the finals during the championship run, you guys responded by winning 2 in Miami. Was there anything from that experience that you guys were able to draw on heading into this weekend? And obviously there were 2 different series, 2 different situations, but just from a broad perspective, could you guys draw from that a little bit?
A little bit. Different teams, but that was one of the things that DJ, our voice of reason in the locker room, he was telling us we've gotten 2 on the road before, so it's something that we can do again.
Aaron, for years you guys have been a shot making team, but even for y'all, considering opponent, degree of difficulty, moment in a series, their size, their length, was this as good a night of shot making as you guys have had as a group?
I think we shot the ball pretty well, but not really. Not really. MPJ, not really. I think we can be sharper, really, on the offensive end. They're a very physical team and very good on defense, and they were taking us out of our offensive sets sometimes. So I think the better that we're in our sets, the more we'll continue to generate good looks, and I think guys are going to continue to knock down shots.
Take one more with Katie here on the left.
Aaron, over the last couple years, I think everyone on this team staff have referred to you as selfless. And I'm curious where you learned to be selfless, because a lot of times in this league, that's a hard thing to do when you're on a team like this. Where did you learn to be selfless?
That's a great transition, Katie. You saw big fella step in the room, huh? That guy, man, that's where I learned to be selfless. I learned it from him, man. He's the best basketball player in the world, 3-time MVP, and he's the most selfless, humble dude that you'll ever meet. So if a 3-time MVP can do it, I can do it too.
That is the best way that I could ever imagine ending this live. Kudos to Aaron Gordon. Sometimes you listen to these players and they go through the motions and they don't really give you any real answers or anything worth thinking about or any serious thought. Everything is just so not shade. I don't care. It's fine. I've seen players who are excellent on the mic, like a Fred VanVleet is a great example of someone who really thinks and articulates all those questions out. Maybe I didn't always like what he was saying. Dennis Schroeder is another guy where, he really articulates some of the things that he wants to say, and he gives you some real insights into, what's going on with the team, what's going on the court. LeBron sometimes, and ironically, I just mentioned 3 guys whose mic skills and interviews I often am very critical of. Aaron Gordon, gave a lot of insight, but also did it from a place that I really genuinely appreciate. There was nothing cocky. There was nothing brash about it. There's nothing, there's no lying, in my opinion, of what he said. But yeah, I really appreciate the fact. And, it goes to say a lot about how teams take on the identity of their best player, or the strongest characteristics of your best player will become adopted by the rest of their teammates. So Scottie is a very unselfish player. Scottie is, a defensive player, someone who cares about defense. And, quite frankly, for the Raptors, the last 4 years, you've had a player, in my opinion, be your best player who didn't really have the greatest defensive attention to detail, right? So, yeah, I do think that guys like RJ and Emmanuel Quickley, Grady Dick, etc., will approach next year with a more selfless, not that they're selfish to begin with, but a more selfless approach. But also it's important to me that the 19th pick and the 31st pick and any subsequent draft picks that come into the Raptors organization are going to be learning what it means to be a Raptor from guys like Jakob Poeltl and Scotty Barnes and, RJ Barrett. And, I listen to a lot of Knicks podcasts because I'm a New York kid and I'm from New York. And, I still do listen to some New York podcasts. And they're so slanderous about RJ Barrett. They act like, he didn't care about basketball, that he didn't work hard, he didn't do this, he didn't do that, he didn't care, he dogged it. They say all these things. So I'm really rooting for him too. I'm rooting for him to prove I'm wrong. I'm rooting for him to go into the Garden next year and drop 40 on them. Um, yeah, I really like the Raptors. I really like this team right now. I like most, if not all, of the players on this team. And I fundamentally disagree with a lot of the people who came on today who said that we should ask these guys to tank. I don't believe in asking these guys to tank. That time came, it's gone. You go with what you have. But I think you have a lot of talent on this team. I don't think that it's necessarily the nicest thing to look at a guy like an RJ Barrett or a Scotty Barnes and say, yeah, you know what? You're not enough. We want Cooper Flag too, right? It's a different conversation to have at game 60 when things haven't gone your way. It's a completely different conversation to have in training camp. So let's roll with the punches. Let's get excited about the draft. Hopefully something really good falls into the Raptors' lap. I suspect it might, given, the penchant that this team has for finding talent at that part of the draft. But also, it's a long summer ahead for the players that are on this roster, getting better, etc. I have a feeling Scotty is going to get a lot better this year. And I'll tell you, if he approaches next year with this mentality of being an 8-9 box plus minus guy, he'll be one of the top 5 to 6 players in the Eastern Conference. Chances are that's probably going to lead you into being a playoff team. So, we'll see which way Atlanta goes. We'll see which way Chicago goes. My estimation, we'll see also which way Miami goes. All those teams have guys who have very shaky futures with their franchise, guys who are maybe aging out, getting a little bit older. How is Miami going to look with Terry Rozier and, Jimmy Butler next year? I have no idea, So a lot of questions to be asked, but I think the Raptors could be right there, with a team like Orlando, if a couple things break right for them. And, you got to start this process towards winning somehow. Look at the Denver Nuggets, right? Like where did they get these guys? Where did they get all their pieces? KCP, Aaron Gordon via trade. They didn't draft Aaron Gordon. The highest player that they drafted on their team right now is Jamal Murray at 7th. That was their draft pick, right? So, yeah, I'm just saying you find value everywhere in the draft, but the draft is not the only place to find value. And look at Nikola Jokic. It's a great example. And I'm happy that we devoted so much of a live that was about the greatness of Nikola Jokic to the perils and advantages to tanking. I think there's an advantage to finding special people, but I think that there's a greater advantage to putting people into special situations in which they can become the best they can be. There's another world in which Nikola Jokic does not become even a one-time MVP and is maybe out of the league in 3 years. It took a very, very special approach, in my opinion, with Mike Malone. It took a lot of really intelligent roster building around Nikola Jokic to put him into that position. Maybe it took Masai Ujiri trading Carmelo Anthony, as Alex Smith is saying here, it started with trading away Carmelo to pave the way for a guy like Nikola Jokic. It took them correctly identifying that Jokic was a better player than Nurkic and moving off of Nurkic, knowing that the two couldn't play together. There's a lot of things that go into, developing a player correctly, and the least of which is tanking, in my opinion. I'm not anti-tank, I'm not pro-tank, I'm not anything. I just believe that where the Raptors are right now, tanking will not be in the cards for the foreseeable future. And, that's where I'm at with this. I'll talk to you guys later. Check us out tomorrow on the Players' Choice panel, 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. I will be on there with a whole bunch of people. Flash some support in the comments. I'm probably going to need it. And I'll probably do another live tomorrow after the games, and we'll definitely have you covered the day after. So, we're gonna keep doing these playoff lives, and then slowly, as the rounds get a little wider, which is to say that as we move to the Eastern Conference, Western Conference Finals, there won't be as many games to focus on. I'll turn my focus entirely to the draft. Summer Low saying, "Oh my God, you going back there? They're going to be polite to you?" Guaranteed not, but it's okay. I've had enough time to just sort of process like what that entire, shitstorm was. And I got to be honest, I think like that entire morning was just the internet disruption, me getting kicked off, coming back on, etc. It was just a little bit like off kilter I felt off kilter. And yeah, I think like as long as I get a good night's sleep, I think I'll be all right. All right, cool, man. Talk to y'all later and peace.